My battery's dead.
There's,
IFB.
There's one or two that's just
I
messed
just
up.
got it off of here.
30 seconds out.
Okay. Everybody, Chief Meteorologist Ken Weathers here with Meteorologist Theo Cook. It's 8 o'clock here on Tuesday night. We're watching some thunderstorms that are coming out of Kentucky. These are going to be racing very quickly off towards the south and east. So most likely what we're going to see is basically a warning for almost every county as this moves towards the south and east. As of right now, we're looking at McCreary, Whitley, Knox, Bell, and Harlan counties. That severe thunderstorm warning, I believe that's the one that goes until 8:30. Let me double check. That's till 8:45. They went ahead and pre-warned the storms basically here in Claiborne County over through Hancock and Hawkins County. That one goes until 8:30, but it's still a ways away. They may have to reissue that because the storms aren't quite to that area yet. But again, all these are moving very quickly off towards the south and east. The entire line's moving at probably about 40 to 45 miles per hour, but the individual cells are kind of moving parallel to the line as it's dropping to the south and east. I'll kind of put this into a time lapse from the past hour, and you can kind of see what we're talking about here with this line sliding towards the south and east. So another thing that we're going to be noticing here with these storms, they're very efficient rain producers, meaning flash flooding is certainly going to be a concern as well with these storms moving through. I think we just got a flash flood warning issued for Harlan County, Kentucky, as these storms have been moving over the same areas and additional storms are coming through. So that will be another thing we'll be watching as we go through the evening. As we've been saying, the opportunities here are really from about now, 8 p.m. through about 1 a.m. as these storms are dropping to the south and east. And we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that's in place for basically everybody east of the I-75 corridor. This goes till 2 o'clock in the morning. I think the storms will be through the area before 2 a.m., but you just need to pay attention to these. As we always say, now's a great time to go ahead and charge the phones, the tablets. We'll stay online as needed and track these storms. But if your power goes out, which is certainly going to be a possibility with some of these storms, we want to make sure you can stay up to date. As of right now, you can see Hawkins County, 500 power outages, 200 in Harlan. We do think these will go up as the storms slide through the area. I want to go back to the watch for just a minute. Again, area shaded in orange means that severe thunderstorms are possible. Conditions are favorable. It could happen. If a warning is issued in your area, that's when you need to go ahead and seek shelter, okay? And just because you're not in the area shaded in orange, it's in and around the watch area. That's the definition of a severe thunderstorm watch. So that's why we said along and east of I-75. So I would include Scott, Anderson, Knox, Loudoun, Monroe, Blount, Union, Campbell County. Anybody in this area, as that line slides southward, has an opportunity. Strongest looks to be over to the east. I know what a lot of people are going to say. Any tornadoes with these? Low end threat, but we've already seen with these thunderstorms coming through, we've had winds 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. That can often do as much damage as a tornado, but often on a wider scale. So please take the warning seriously, okay, as these move their way through the area. But again, they're just now coming into our southeast Kentucky counties, moving to the south and east. They're not too far from Claiborne County. Now, the warning that they issued there, I'll go ahead and stop it. Again, it runs until 8:30, but that cell looks like it's going to be pretty close. There's a Sunnyside at 8:29. We've got Ramsey at 8:32. And the Blackwater School at 8:33. So we're kind of coming out of Lee County, Virginia, into, that's going to be into Hancock County, Kentucky, or Tennessee. There's Claiborne County. So you're still a ways away, Claiborne. Hancock, you're kind of coming up in the short term, I'd say in the next 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and be in a safe spot at this point as that's coming through. Sometimes what we'll see on these lines of storms as they come through, we can sometimes get quick little spin up type tornadoes, and that's something we'll need to watch for as well. In the short term, let's just quickly look. I want to look at the shear product that we have, again, which can show rotation. I'm not seeing anything that's completely jumping out. We'll keep an eye on that little batch there in McCreary County, Kentucky. But again, I'm not seeing anything at this point that's definitely screaming, yes, it's something we need to worry about for a tornado potential. But as I mentioned, 60, 70 plus mile per hour winds, that's enough of a concern for us, which is again why we're streaming on here and staying up to date. We talked about, we're getting numerous reports out of Lee County, Virginia as well, of tree down in that area as well. But Theo Cook is here with me as well. And Theo, one of the things we talked about that we've noticed here is this line of storms that's moving southeast. A lot of these storms are moving over the same areas, meaning these rain totals are going to go up quickly because the amount of moisture in the atmosphere is running about 1 1/3 to 1.5 times what is average for this time of year, which is pretty astounding for August levels, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned that flash flood warning. It's for about 1/10 of Harlan County. Very, very isolated area. And really not all that much rainfall has occurred, up to maybe 2 inches, but I think it's in kind of a spot with a lot of hills and mountains in the Cumberland Gap area. So kind of want to zoom in. Here's Harlan County. Here's the far northeast corner of Harlan County. So the city of Cumberland there. Some, again, 1.5 to maybe up to 2 inch amounts. Here's the city of Clover there. We're going to move in here, just kind of look at some of the city names, some of the communities here. Blair, again, Cumberland, what is that? Klutz and Benham, I believe. Kind of moving along, really Cumberland in that northeast corner of Harlan County. Zoom out, show you the entire county there. Very far northeastern Harlan County. And one thing we've kind of noticed over the last couple of hours is the storms are starting to slow down a little bit. They're also starting to move a little bit to the left, or from your point of view, they'd be more turning to the right. And that's really going to start to add on those totals quite a bit. I mean, we're talking about 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates if you're seeing that over an hour time span. And honestly, we could be talking about some of these storms lasting for more than an hour. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Also keeping a very close eye on any sort of spin-up possibilities, but I really do think this is mainly a straight line 60 plus mile per hour wind gust situation, Ken.
Yeah, and one thing we want to talk about as well, let's kind of look how these are moving. As he mentioned, the line is moving to the south, but the storms are moving almost parallel to that line, so from east to west. That's why we're going to see the rain probabilities, the rain totals add up. But often what we see on this line, again, some very strong winds. I think the strongest winds have been a little further to our east, so through portions of southwest Virginia, over towards Abingdon, up towards Marion, the Kingsport area, and that will shift from the Tri-Cities into western North Carolina. But it's this back edge that we're watching, and as Theo mentioned, will we see the storms back build? It's kind of like lighting a fuse, right? There's a lot of energy back towards the west, so will the storms kind of feed off that and build back to the west? We'll see. The forecast models have really been struggling with the timing of these moving through and the intensities, but as we said earlier, we thought between about 8 p.m. and 1 a.m. would be the best bet for these coming through north to south across the area, and I still think that's going to be the case. We'll look at the latest forecast product again. Did not initialize very well with this, but I do want to show you kind of as we go through the evening, it's showing some additional storms developing closer to the 11 o'clock, 1 a.m. time frame. I'm not overly excited with the output of that. So at this point, we'll go ahead and kind of discount that forecast model and basically just let you know anywhere, basically, I think the Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center have done an okay job with the watch where they have it issued. But as I mentioned, I don't want you to say, hey, I'm in Blount County, I'm in Knox, Anderson, Scott, and Campbell. I don't have to worry about it. I would say anywhere from Scott all the way down through Blount County, we need to pay attention to this line as it's dropping to the south and east, because there's going to be the potential that we could see strong thunderstorm winds, even if they're not severe. By definition, severe thunderstorm warning is 58 miles per hour winds or greater, right? So what if you had a 50 mile per hour gust? It may not have a severe thunderstorm warning on it, but it could do damage, and that's what we're expecting with these storms as they come through the area. So again, I know we get it so many times, hey, is there going to be a tornado with this? And then if we say no, people discount it. We've already seen damage reports come out of these storms, so that is going to be a possibility. Right now, you can see the warnings all lined up from Greene County all the way back into southeast Kentucky. Again, telling me they're going to put a warning basically on this entire line, at least in the short term, as this starts to move south and eastward. That's why I think anybody from Scott County, Anderson, Knox, and Blount, you have a potential really of seeing some severe thunderstorms between now and about 1 a.m. If we take a look outside, it's very quiet in and around Knoxville. That's a live look from our Embassy Suites hotel camera back towards the east, southeast. There's not a whole lot going on in the area right now, and that's kind of what we're going to see here in the short term is limited storms in and around Knoxville, but areas to the north, we're really starting to see some of those storms develop. One thing we need to watch for, again, as this line comes through, you look for little kinks on the line, and it's sometimes in those where you can get quick little spin-ups. And sometimes they don't get warned on, okay? They may have to go back later and say, oh, yes, that was a tornado. But that's why we're saying treat it just the same. 60, 70, 80 mile per hour winds or a quick spin-up tornado that has 80 to 100 mile per hour winds. There's not that much of a difference. It's still going to cause a concern. There's still that potential for seeing damage as these storms come through. So, Theo, I know you've been talking back and forth with the Weather Service. You've been keeping an eye on things. Is there anything in particular that's jumping out at you here in the short term as these storms are coming out of Kentucky into East Tennessee?
I want us to watch Whitley County very closely in the Barberville area. There's definitely a little bit of a what we call inflow-bound winds. And something that we're kind of mentioning is these storms starting to turn and slow down a little bit. Overall, that should decrease our severe threat slightly, but also what it's going to do is kind of looking over the last half hour or so, Ken, I think it allows for a little bit more of these inflow notches to start moving into the storm since we have a little bit more shear in that direction. So definitely the outflow kind of interacting with some of the inflow winds. Nothing extremely strong rotation right now, but something to keep an eye on, both just on the northeast side of Barberville there, and then also kind of another little small rotation there in the Pineville community of Bell County. I want to answer a few questions. This is, we're on Facebook and YouTube, so we can answer questions. Definitely go ahead and put those in the chat. Definitely something we encourage. Have lots of questions from what about Wartburg, Lenoir City, Andersonville, Maryville, really overall for pretty much all four of those. We're seeing this line just now starting to move into the Tennessee border. Remember, this is Whitley County, Bell County here in Kentucky. We're still talking about Kentucky. Tennessee line is just off your screen there at the bottom. Really between about, Ken just timed it out, 9, 10, 11 o'clock for really closer to the I-40 corridor. I'd say closer to the midnight time frame if you're south of I-40, closer to Monroe, McMinn, Loudoun County, places like that, Blount County as well.
Yeah, one thing we just talked about, right, is these slow-moving storms and the potential to see flooding. We have a very nice little tool here that really you're only going to see it here, to be honest with you. It's a very, very favorable thing that kind of lets us know where we could be seeing some flooding concerns. And notice the green boxes showing up. Those are current flash flood warnings. But every little area you see here, it's giving us a heads up that what is the likelihood we could be seeing flooding in these areas. And notice the orange to red, high to very high. And it's kind of what we just mentioned, right? These storms are starting to move over the same areas. Flooding could really become a problem here in the short term. And as we know, flash flooding is just that. It happens very quickly. So if you live in a flood-prone area, maybe a river, a creek, a stream that is prone to flooding or a low-lying area, it won't take much to cause some concern. So if you see that water rising rapidly, get out the best way you can. Or if a warning happens, you need to seek shelter. And it becomes increasingly dangerous as we get closer to and beyond sunset, right? We're probably 30, 40 minutes away from sunset, and then if it's cloudy, of course, it gets darker quicker. But you don't know how deep water is on a roadway. I've heard it so many times, oh, I'm fine, I drive this road every single day, it's not an issue. Yes, but what if something has happened underneath the water onto the road? What if it's washed out and you can't see it? Then you're going to drive into that hole and you're going to have a problem. So that's why we say, please just be very careful. All right, so again, this is one thing we'll have to keep an eye on, Theo, is the potential for some very heavy rainfall. They already issued the flash flood warning, as you mentioned, in Harlan County, and our little forecast product here kind of pointed that out before it happened. That's why I'm keeping an eye on some of these others from McCreary, Whitley, up into Knox County, Kentucky. I think that, even if we didn't see one more severe thunderstorm warning, flooding, I think, could be an issue, Theo. And this isn't the only opportunity. I think we're going to have a couple of rounds of these storms, not just tonight, but tomorrow morning and potentially tomorrow afternoon as well. In fact, we are under a medium risk for flash flooding for basically our entire area as we go a little bit later tonight into tomorrow. So that is another thing that we're going to have to be watching. Theo, anything else that you're seeing over there?
Just kind of want to do a quick reset since we've been getting a lot of questions about, the timing and what sort of impacts over the next few hours. Yes, it is in a weakening trend. I want to be careful when I say that because we're seeing up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts now. We could still see 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts with the strongest of these as it moves to the south. Even once we're past sundown, storm fuel is going to linger 9, 10, 11 o'clock. We're just, 8:15 right now? Really 9 o'clock just south of the Tennessee border. I'd say close to I-40 between 9:30 and 11 or so, and then after 11 or midnight if you're south of I-40. So here's kind of the big picture view. It's really from Lee County, Virginia right now, just to the north of the Tennessee border here. Strong line of thunderstorms is really what this is, 60 to even reports of 70 plus, Ken, you said earlier?
Yes.
And again, we're starting to turn a little bit more to the left or looking more to the right, the way we're looking at it. But the direction of these storms moving and then turning a little bit more to the left. So flash flooding is starting to go up, or risk for flash flooding, as Ken just mentioned. But we're also watching very closely for kind of these little inflows of a little bit more enhanced wind. So at least a little bit of shear. Overall, the tornado threat is very, very close to zero, not completely zero. We could still see a very quick, brief spin-up tornado. And we've seen all over the Ohio Valley from earlier this afternoon, this morning, some 70, 80 plus mile per hour wind gusts, and it looks like tornado damage went through there. We've been saying over the last few minutes, if you've been with us, it doesn't take a tornado to do widespread damage. Some trees, power lines, anything like that could definitely do some damage. But I will say kind of what we've mentioned over the last few minutes. I think this is starting to slow down, turning a little bit more, those training thunderstorms, which means we're continuing to see development behind them, running over the same spots. I really do think flooding is our #1 concern, especially right after the initial kind of blast. You might get hit with 50, 60 plus mile per hour wind gusts. Once they settle down a little bit, you're good to go to bed, but then the flash flooding risk is definitely going to be a concern as we go through much of the night and really through the day tomorrow. This is round #1. We're talking about, 2 more rounds on the way, Ken?
Yeah, sorry, but we was talking here back and forth with the Weather Service a little bit. I do want to point this out. There's still a lot of fuel out there right now, right? It was a hot, humid day today, not a lot of thunderstorms around. So the potential, one of the ingredients we have is there to hold some of these thunderstorms together. But some of the other ingredients that we've been looking at, not quite as conducive for these storms to stay the strength they are sliding to the south and east. Not ready to say, hey, everything's going to be fine. In fact, that is not going to be the case, especially between now and about, I'd say 9, maybe up to 10 p.m. These storms will most likely kind of hold their strength sliding into at least our southeast Kentucky and Tennessee, Kentucky border counties. So we're talking about Scott, Campbell, Claiborne over into Hancock counties. Not ready to say you're in the clear yet by any means. It's just something we'll watch. Now, I know Claiborne County, your warning just goes for another 12 minutes and you've seen nothing. What they did is they went ahead and issued the warning because I think they were a little unsure where this cell would go that's going into Hancock County now near Sneedville. But really the greater risk is still upstream up into Kentucky. So most likely they're going to have to issue this again, extend the warning a little bit as we go closer to the 8:30 time frame and beyond. But again, it is a mess back here, active lightning, as you can see, over 400 strikes just in the past 15 minutes. That is a lot. So that tells us as well, we're probably getting rainfall rates that are at least 1 to 2 inches or more per hour, meaning if it sits in that same spot, those are the kind of rainfall rates you're going to see, and that is going to also lead to some flooding. Again, kind of a quick look inside here. I want to check the shear rate product. Seeing, again, that little bit there in McCreary County, maybe something to watch here in the short term. If anything, it's going to be a quick little spin up, like we mentioned. But again, even when you get the quick little spin up, sometimes it's hard to see on radar unless you are just constantly laser focused on them, and that's what the Weather Service is trying to do. But regardless, I would not be surprised if we easily had some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds as some of these storms are going to be moving through here in the short term. Through McCreary, Whitley, Knox, and Bell County into Kentucky. But again, a little further to the south, we really haven't had much in and around our East Tennessee areas yet. In fact, there is nothing from Knoxville southward at this point. In fact, there's probably a little bit of sunshine. It's areas to the north. The closer to and then beyond sunset time frames that we get, that's when it's going to get a little noisy across the area, right? You're going to be seeing the lightning on the horizon. You're going to be hearing thunder. And it's just something we'll keep an eye on as these storms continue to drop towards the south and east. So again, putting a loop on this, you can see over the past hour how the line is trying to push south, but the individual cells are sliding almost parallel to that line, and that's what's leading to the potential for this heavy rainfall. I want to check just kind of quickly if we had any updates to our power outage map. Looks like Anderson has jumped to 200, but the storms aren't even there yet, so that could be unrelated. 100 in Harlan and 500 in Hawkins County as this moves south and east. They had one little batch that moved through this area earlier, so it could be to that. But I would not be surprised, Theo, if we start to see those go up in the Kentucky areas here pretty soon. What else are you looking at? A hail potential, I think?
Yeah, I had a couple questions in the Facebook chat of, are we seeing any hail? It's very minimal. I'm not even convinced with what our algorithm is picking up that if this is even making it to the ground with how hot it is in the heat of summer. I mean, it was 90 degrees today for many spots, very, very hot conditions. But if there was hail, look at that, very minimal on our scale here, some maybe up to 1/4 inch size. So that's P to maybe dime sized at most, just to the north and west of the Rogersville area. That would be probably the best opportunity to see any sort of hail at all. But again, it's very small there. Those greens definitely on the lower end, and then back into Kentucky as well. A few of these stronger storms. Again, maybe some dime-sized hail, some pea-sized hail in the Pineville community, also up into Whitley County as well. But I'd say flooding, pretty high concern. And then damaging wind gusts going to be the main concern with any of these yellow boxes here are for 60 plus mile per hour wind gust potential. Still mainly up in Kentucky. I've had a lot of questions, Ken, about Tennessee. It's still coming for a lot of us in East Tennessee.
Yeah, not even here yet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole point to all this, which again, we're going to stay on the air here just to keep an eye on things, but we can look here. These are Doppler radar rainfall estimates across the area, and the majority of kind of what we're seeing here, I'm going to take a look at this. We're going to query it, is what we say. Notice that I-75 area between Corbin and London. That's 2.5 plus inches of rainfall being estimated there. Then you come over there into Knox County, Kentucky, north of Barberville. That's a 2. Anything in this yellow shading is going to be over 2 inches, and that's pretty significant. At least the potential of seeing some flooding. So we'll see if these continue to add up in the short term, like we mentioned, because I do think they will, the way these storms are moving. There's an update for you, scan. And again, our forecast product here.
New flash flood warning.
Yeah, just like, and look, it's right where we talked about, where our product was showing that potential. So that's in Knox County, Kentucky, north of the Barberville area. That's going to go until 11:15. So we're, a little less than 3 hours that potential for flooding is going to continue there into Knox County. So again, if you live in that flood-prone area, please be very careful. This is going to be a problem, I think, as we go through the evening, Theo. Even if some of these storms, if they start to weaken, we're still going to be seeing the potential for flooding, I think, here in the short term.
Absolutely. Yeah, still kind of keeping a very close eye on just wind shear in general. It's very low end rotation with any one of these storms that are moving through. One spot I guess we'll take a look at a little bit of heightened colors, kind of those reds starting to mix into the greens, is just south of the Pineville area here in Bell County, kind of near the Bell County High School. But again, it's not extremely impressive. It's not something that screams, hey, this would be a tornado. But as Ken's been mentioning over the last several minutes, this would be very quick spin up. So sometimes even in between radar scans, as the radar really only scans a spot, depending on the mode it's in, every 2.5, 3 minutes or so. So sometimes we miss it with the radar, but we're also just kind of keeping a close eye on where those red and greens are coming together. Any sort of red is kind of inflow into the storms here as they're moving towards the south and the east. There's that green flashing box. That's that flash flood warning there in northern Knox County, Kentucky there. And then any sort of yellow boxes here are the severe thunderstorm warnings as well. Starting to see a little bit of a decrease in velocity colors or wind speed, kind of the further west we go, which is definitely a good trend. But kind of a concerning trend, Ken, is I think the fact that these are slowing down a little bit. The forward speed, we were watching these over the last really several hours through much of the day. In fact, they were moving at 40, 50 plus mile per hour forward speed. I don't know the exact speed it's at yet, but it's definitely a lot slower than when it approached our area. So
it is. Trend. Yeah. I think it's also probably due to the time of day. We're losing some of that daytime heating now as well. Let me again I know we got a lot of questions about when's it going to be coming into my area. Let me go back and talk about this. Again, this is where our current watch is. Everything shaded here in orange goes until 2 a.m. So just because you're in Blount, Knox, Anderson, Union, Campbell, Scott, just because you're not included, don't let your guard down. By definition, when they issue these watches, it's in and around the watch area, right? Mother Nature doesn't obey by boundaries that are drawn on a map, right? Going to do what she's going to do. So severe thunderstorm threat, I'd say especially along and east of I-75 is probably going to be our best case as we go over the next couple of hours. Let's hope this continues to weaken as it drops to the south. Let's hope that happens. Here's a time lapse from the past hour. So this is just an hour. You can see how these storms have been slowly coming through Kentucky. That's again one of the other reasons why we're seeing the heavy rain potential that could lead to some flooding. So let's kind of go hour by hour here and see what we're looking at. I think the forecast model is doing a little bit better in picking up where these storms are and where they're going to go. Notice anytime you're seeing these brighter colors, you start to get into the pinks and even the blacks. That's kind of indicating, hey, these storms could still be packing a bit of a punch as they come through. So that's why we're saying anywhere east of I-75, I want to pay attention to. Now this is up through 11 o'clock. So again, we're talking about another, 2.5 hours from right now is going to be the potential for these storms to move through. And then watch after about midnight, 1 a.m., I think it's going to be pretty quiet. Now, here's where the problem is, right? What if you're out of power? Again, this is when it's good to go ahead and make sure your devices are charged, your phone, your tablets, whatever it is. As we head into daybreak, I think you're going to have a good opportunity to get some rest once these storms move through. It does look a little bit quieter as we head into the morning hours across the area, which is going to be good. But then I think we're going to see these storm opportunities develop. What I want to do is I'm going to set this to go a little bit later in time so we can kind of get an idea maybe of when these storms could move through. So let me scroll on through here. So this is 7 a.m. So when a lot of people may be getting up, right? Think about heading to work, heading to school. Already seeing a few more storms trying to develop across southeast Kentucky. Will they be severe? I think they may have a hard time being severe because, again, we've used up a lot of the energy with the storms going through now. atmosphere is going to have a hard time recovering during the middle of the night. You're not getting the daytime heating. You're not getting that fuel, all of that. It's probably more of a heavy rain threat, and that's again where the flooding threat could be a concern. Notice as we go through 9, even up to about midday, we're still seeing a chance of showers and storms dropping south and eastward through the area. That could be problematic, especially Knoxville eastward and in Kentucky, where we already have flash flood warnings that are being issued now. And that's why we said that this could certainly be maybe a bigger concern for some as we go a little bit later into the first half of the day tomorrow. I did want to show you there is, as we mentioned, there's the potential for some flash flooding tomorrow as well. And this area that we have right here in this darker green, that's a medium risk for flash flooding. So you can see it's in our entire area. And it would make sense if that, what I just showed you, comes to fruition and we see the storms move through tonight. We see another round move through pretty early in the morning. And then as we go later in the day, if the atmosphere can recover, which we think it will to some extent, we could be dealing with another opportunity of some strong to even severe storms later tomorrow across the area. So Theo, I'm going to find that graphic, but I'm going to send it back over to you for just a second to talk more about where the storms are right now.
Yeah, just coming up on the bottom of the hour, 8:30. So let's do a reset. We just got several new severe thunderstorm warnings, and your phones may go off, your weather radios, hopefully you have them set to turn on your alerts as you may be heading to bed. We have a lot more counties under a severe thunderstorm warning for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's really the main concern, but it may be about an hour before you see a drop of rain. We still have all of this rain up in southeast Kentucky, up closer to the Tri-Cities. Here's I-81, Rogersville, Tri-Cities, Kingsport area. Anything in this yellow, though, is going to be a severe thunderstorm warning now. So that's going to be places like Cott County, Harlan County, Jefferson County, Granger County, Greene County as well. Moving up into Claiborne County, even Union County, just north of Knox County there. Again, Claiborne County, Hancock County there in the Sneedville area, all now under a severe thunderstorm warning for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We almost always say take cover immediately when a warning is issued. If you're closer to Jefferson County, Granger County, Cott County, you probably have at least a few minutes to hold on, especially if you're watching this very closely. Again, these storms are kind of Harlan, Sneedville, Rogersville, Tri-Cities, so you may have about half an hour to 45 minutes before you even see a drop of rain. They were moving very quickly, so I definitely could see why the National Weather Service would be issuing far in advance, but they are starting to slow down a little bit. I almost wonder if what they're doing is because of the outflow boundaries. You almost may see the 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts well ahead of any sort of rain there as well, Ken.
Give a big heads up, as you mentioned, Theo, as these storms are dropping to the south and east. So again, these go until 9:30. The new ones issued for Jefferson and Cott County. That's an hour from now. So we'll see. The storms won't even be there for probably another 20 minutes or so, if not longer. But go ahead and it's, again, good to get a heads up, right? So take your phone, your tablet, however you're watching us now, and get into your safe spot, again, just to be safe until these storms push all the way through. I really think we're going to continue to see some flooding concerns across Kentucky here in the short term. We can take a look. Again, we talked about the flash flood warning for Knox County, Kentucky, but again, our little forecast product here already indicating some other areas that may be a concern in southeast Kentucky coming up. Anytime you see the orange and the red shading there, that's high to very high potential of seeing some flash flooding. So that's McCreary, and right on the border there between McCreary and Whitley, 2 sections now in Knox County, Kentucky, and then over into southern Harlan and northeastern Harlan as well, where the flash flood warning has already been issued. And this is a flash flood warning, the flashing green though, so between London and Barberville. That goes until 11:15, and we can take a look at the rainfall estimates that we're kind of getting across the area. As we mentioned, that's 2 to 2.5 inches already being estimated, so that makes sense why the flash flood warning was issued right in that area. In fact, I will put the warning on there so you can kind of get an idea of exactly where that is. And it makes sense to be right in that area, right? So the flashing green boxes is where we have the flash flood warnings. And notice that just updated. Anytime the scan comes through, it's going to update the estimate of rainfall. So, you know, you're 2.5 getting probably close to 2 3/4 of an inch of rainfall in this area along I-75 between Corbett and London and back towards Barberville itself. So yeah, that's going to be problematic. And again, that flash flood warning goes until 11:15. And I think we're going to continue to see that be an issue as these storms are moving towards the south and east. Now let's go back. We'll take a look here at these storms. Maybe they are finally starting to jog a little bit further to the south, but they're taking their time. And that's what we've been saying. So I know why they went ahead and issued these warnings out ahead of time, because this little bit here is sagging a little quicker, I think, than the western edge of this. And sometimes we see that as some of the storms kind of fall apart behind it, they'll push the line a little quicker. So it's not like everybody's moving at the same speed kind of a line. There'll often be little cells that can help push the line a little further quicker in portions. And Theo, it looks like, especially up the 81 corridor, that's going to dive farther quicker compared to areas to the west. So I understand why they went ahead and issued, but an immediate threat is going to be Claiborne, Union, and into Granger County in the short term as these storms are diving to the south and east. But again, I'm not seeing at least anything that's jumping out at this point saying, you know, hey, we have a quick spin up with this, but the history we've had with these storms, 60, 70 mile per hour winds, they're easily going to be causing some power outages or even some tree limbs that come down in spots, Theo, as we go in the short term. Any other updates, any questions, or comments that people have had coming up?
Yeah, I had a few questions. What about Norris? Ken probably just kind of answered that a little bit. Over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning for 60 mile per hour wind gusts. What about Seymour? Very similar, but probably a little bit longer. That's the severe county there. Probably closer to 9:30, 10 o'clock, not under a severe thunderstorm warning yet. Howard's Quarter getting wind now. That's going to be very common, 50, 60 mile per hour gusts. Kind of this wall of wind, if you will, and that's going to be the main thing you see, and then just torrential rainfall rates behind it. Looks like it's going to be a long night. Thank you. Yep, of course, we'll be here as long as we need to be. Just got a warning for Granger County till 9:30. That's definitely correct. The entirety of Granger County is under a severe thunderstorm warning now. Keeping a very close eye on a little bit of a hail pulse here, a little bit more height in the thunderstorms, Ken, in McCreary County there, just on the west side of Whitley County line. Sometimes you see those yellows, that's getting close to the 1/4 inch or 1 inch, quarter size hail or 1 inch in diameter. Not convinced that's making it to the ground, but still definitely going to watch the hail potential. But I think damaging wind gusts, that's your primary concern, followed by the flash flooding concern. We are seeing torrential rainfall rates. We've been talking about that, really starting to pick up as we go over the next few hours. We'll continue to see those rainfall rates pick up, Ken.
Yeah, that's that I think overall is going to be the problem. I'm just looking to see if any of our cameras are picking up on anything. Again, we're getting close to sunset, so we're going to have a hard time with some of these cameras until the storms get a little bit closer to us at this point. But I did want to point out once again, there's still quite a bit of fuel out there, even though we are getting close to sunset, meaning the potential anywhere, especially where you see the brighter reds and oranges, these storms, as they move through these areas, they can feed off of it, right? It's like if you're a runner, right? You need to stop for water or a snack if you're running a marathon. It's kind of what the storms are doing is they're dropping south and east. They need some fuel. They need something to keep going. And what we'll look for is what's happening out ahead of the line of storms. Notice how the fuel's getting used up areas to the north where some of those storms have been occurring in southeast Kentucky, but not so much where they're about to move into, which, one of the things we look for, can these storms, maintain their strength as they're moving to the south and east? Certainly a possibility. But again, kind of a quick update. Everything you're seeing here in yellow, those are severe thunderstorm warnings showing up. And I know we've got warnings all the way down through Cocke County. You've still got a little bit of time before these storms move in your area, but I would say especially Granger, Claiborne, Union County areas, you're going to be seeing the storm arrival a lot sooner than everybody else as these are moving towards the south and east. And as we mentioned, the line itself slowing down a little bit, the forward speed back towards the west, meaning this area is slowing down, where this one, areas east, looks to be, I'd say, maintaining its speed, Theo, as it's diving south and east towards the 81 corridor. That's why they went ahead and issued these warnings out ahead, as the eastern edge of that's moving quicker than the western edge. And as we mentioned, that does happen sometimes. But in and around Knoxville, westward, you've still got some time before these storms start to impact our area. One thing we're not seeing is sometimes you'll get storms that pop up ahead of a line, and those can often be a concern. Sometimes those are the ones we look forward to possibly produce tornadoes. We're not in that kind of a setup with these cells for today. It's mainly going to be a damaging wind gust threat, maybe some hail up to 1 inch in diameter, and then you may see a quick spin up. But even that, I'd say we're getting less and less likely anyway, Theo, of seeing that potential here anyway.
Yeah, definitely good to see those kind of blue shadings that I was just noticing on your radar scan there over the last 2 or 3 scans, kind of indicating an outflow boundary, meaning those winds are pushing out ahead of the storms. That's shutting off a little bit of the fuel. So fuel is definitely waning here pretty quickly. That's pretty typical once we get post sundown anyway. So still could see some 60+ mile per hour wind gusts. That's not written off yet, but just definitely that trend. And that's really what we've been mentioning over the last couple of days. Is the strongest of it was up in central Kentucky. Some of those places had 80 mile per hour wind gusts. And I kind of want to show that any sort of one of these little icons here, these little white specks or any sort of other colors, that's damaging wind reports or hail reports. Any one of those could be any sort of report of any type. So really all across much of the Ohio Valley, all the way up into the Great Lakes, look at all those reports. Up to 100 mile per hour wind gusts have been reported today in Illinois, Indiana, parts of Ohio, and then this complex of storm, a mesoscale convective complex, we call it, MCS is what we call it, mesoscale convective system. That started diving to the south, and that's exactly what we're seeing, basically marching right along the Tennessee-Kentucky border now, and that's why we have these warnings. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more of these little storm reports, as we call them, those little white dots for, trees come down, power lines come down, maybe some minor damage to some smaller buildings and stuff like that. But again, any one of these yellow shaded boxes, severe thunderstorm warning, but definitely a good trend to see kind of that outflow boundary. Can't really see it on this one as I was using the national radar there, but that's the big picture. While I'm on this national radar, before I toss it back to you, Ken, something we've been talking about is round number 2, or at least these training storms. We're really starting to see quite a bit more shower and storm activity even behind this main line of strong to severe storms. Lots more up in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Here's Lexington, Kentucky. Widespread, not as intense, but still that's moving towards our area. Any one of these green flashing boxes that we have as a flash flood warning, we're still going to see additional shower and storm activity move over those spots, and some places haven't even started seeing rain. We're talking about this initial round, that round behind it, and then rain even through the day tomorrow, and flash flooding only going to become a concern. So really 60 mile per hour wind gusts, main concern in the next 3 or 4 hours, and then later overnight into tomorrow, flash flooding concern is going to be heightened. I believe you have that flash flood product pulled up over there, Ken?
I do. Just as we've been saying, right? Additional warnings will come, and we just have the new one for Bell and Harlan County. So that's going to be southwest Harlan and basically the northern third of Bell County. And it's right again where the bullseye, as our little forecast product had, maybe even a little south of Pineville. But let's see when this warning goes into. So we got the Knox County, Kentucky. That goes to 11:15, and this one for Bell and southwest Harlan, that's going to go until 11:30. And again, we can take a look at the rainfall estimates here, and it makes sense. You can see some of the rainfall estimates we have. Let me add one more here in Harlan County, and again, that's going to be 2.2. So again, this all makes sense, right? 2-2, 2-3, 2-6, 2-6. So the brighter yellows is where some of the heavier rainfalls have occurred, northeast Harlan as well. So that's where the warnings for flash flooding have occurred, and we're getting some of those back out of our viewing area as well. So this may become more of a concern, I'd say, in the long term than the short term as well. But Theo was mentioning what we call an outflow boundary, and he mentioned these the blue colors showing up here. Think of it like dropping a rock in a calm pool of water, right? You've done that as a kid or even as an adult. You see the ripples that move out ahead of where you drop the rock. It's kind of what happens with these storms. You drop a rock, but out ahead of it, as the storms kind of weaken, you will see the gusty winds come. The storm's almost collapsing a little bit, but it's collapsing as the entire storm is moving forward. So the forward movement of that outflow boundary goes quicker than the actual storm, but then the storms also lose a bit of a punch behind it. But it's that outflow boundary. Sometimes you don't even see rain with it. You'll just get this huge gust of wind that's maybe 30, 40 plus, maybe 50 miles per hour. That can cause some concern. So you may have like just the outflow boundary move through that produces some tree damage or some power line outages before it even starts to rain. Plus it also cools it off a little bit, right? You're getting the air from aloft, that cold air that's coming down to the surface as the storm's collapsing. What do we mean by the storm's collapsing? Well, you get rapidly rising air, right? The heat builds, and that's what causes the air to rise. That's what causes the storm to grow. But eventually that storm kind of gives up, if you will. It's like blowing up a balloon. You can only do it for so long, or even on one breath, before you have to stop, right? And if you're not holding the end of it, that balloon is going to let out all the air. Same thing happens with the storms. You're letting out all the air, and then it's rushing out ahead of the storm. So that probably makes sense now why these warnings are in place. You may get 40, 50 mile per hour wind outflow boundaries before the storm moves through, but as Theo mentioned, when this change starts to happen, it usually means that the storms will start to weaken on the backside of it. Now, Theo, the question will be, will we see development out ahead of the outflow boundaries? Sometimes what will happen, you can already see a couple of storms trying to pop up now there in Cott County. If this were in the middle of the afternoon, I might be a lot more concerned, right? Because now you're getting the outflow boundary come, that causes rising air. But it also, you need daytime heating to help with that rising air. We're at sunset now, so that's one ingredient that you may not have. If it were the middle of the day, it might be a little more concerning. But it's probably a good thing that we're seeing these storms start to weaken a bit. And then back behind this, I'll switch radars real quick. I'll go back to the Kentucky radar, and you can see this is more just some moderate to heavy rainfall with some embedded lightning. This is not severe back into here. It's more of a flooding threat at this point. And then Theo talked about the storms that are upstream. But then the next question will be, these storms are moving over an area that's already had thunderstorms. So will these weaken? There's a lot of things that go through trying to nowcast, if you will. And I do think, Theo, these will probably turn into more of a flooding concern, even more so than what we're already seeing across some of the areas in southeast Kentucky. But we will keep an eye on that outflow that's diving southward, now starting to make its way into East Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely don't want to discount the gusty winds along the shower and storm activity. Also don't want to discount the very, very low end threat, but not zero threat of a quick isolated spin up tornado. That could definitely do some localized damage. Really just been kind of trying to keep an eye on if we have any rotation. It's extremely minimal, but definitely enhanced winds and maybe minimal rotation just on the east-south, kind of southeast side of the Harrogate area. The winds were definitely doing a little bit of kind of a dance around each other, the inflow and outflow winds, likely just that outflow boundary kind of interacting with the southwesterly environment winds. I'm sure you felt them today, the 15, 20 mile per hour wind gust out of the southwest, fueling additional heat and moisture, but still definitely something I want to keep a close eye on here just on the southeast side of Harrogate, near Riverview, north of Vance Mill, and north and east of the Arthur area. Already starting to kind of see that dwindle a little bit, it looks like, but definitely saw those kind of red inflow winds interacting with those greens a little bit more. I'd say that's kind of the spot that we could watch the most. But really any one of these, you can kind of see the red inflow into the storm, definitely creating at least ever so slightly enhanced wind shear. But I think mainly straight line winds going to be our main concern as we go over the next 3 or 4 hours through about midnight or so. You can still see most of the kind of wind velocity here. Let's change over to reflectivity. A lot of these storms still, even though you may be under a severe thunderstorm warning, most of these storms are still back in Whitley County, McCreary County, Knox County, Kentucky, starting to fall apart at least a little bit. These ones are the ones diving a little bit quicker where we have the severe thunderstorm warning, really getting messy very quickly. But Bean Station, Morristown, Jefferson City, Maynardville, that's Union County, Granger County, Hancock County, all the way down into Cott County, very far northern Cott County, that is. I think even if you don't see super heavy rainfall, winds are going to be pretty gusty ahead of this, and then likely several minutes to up to an hour later, that's when you would see the very heavy rainfall potential. Remember, yellow boxes, severe thunderstorm warning for up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Any of these green boxes almost behind the main line, that's the flash flood warnings for 2 to 3 inch per rainfall hour, 2 to 3 inches per hour rainfall rates, but we've seen some 2 to 3 inch totals as well, Ken. Still have that rainfall behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's again what Theo was talking about. We're watching the individual kind of cells along the line. So I'm up in McCreary County, Kentucky right now. We always say we'll keep an eye on this virtual threat index is what it is. Anytime you get, especially up in that 5, 6 range, it grabs our attention. But more importantly, what we'll look for is what happens in each scan. Does that number go up? Does it go down? And I noticed it just popped up. It ticked up from about a 2.6 to a 3 in the last scan, meaning maybe it's seeing a quick little uptick in its intensity as this is moving through. And you can almost tell that brighter pink. We probably have a small little hail core there. Let's take a look. We can look inside there and see what kind of hail estimates we're seeing. I'm going to turn off the lightning. We know there's a lot of lightning with this. But we're most likely probably darker green. So we're ½ inch, maybe 3/4 inch. But as Theo mentioned, we're in the middle of August, right? So as these hailstones fall from 50, 60,000 feet up, they're melting as they get closer to the surface, right? So they may not be quite that large. It's seeing it in that scan. And in fact, it's saying, hey, there's a 90% chance that this storm's producing hail, but only a 10% chance it's producing severe hail. And we mentioned earlier, by definition, severe thunderstorms, 58-mile-per-hour winds or greater, but also and or 1 inch in diameter hail or greater, or the size of a quarter, 25-cent piece. So this is saying, yes, pretty good chance there's hail, but only about a 10% chance that it's severe hail. And it's being estimated about 3/4 inch, as I mentioned, this darker green. But as it's falling through some warmer air, relatively speaking still, it's probably melted. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably pea-sized, maybe dime-sized with some of that. But we'll keep an eye on that. But again, maybe the bigger concern would be, do we have any type of a quick spin up with this? I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out right now. It's probably just more of a, there's going to be some strong winds as this is kind of moving through. I'll switch radars real quick. And again, kind of seeing the same thing. So these still have the potential. This warning goes till 9:30, by the way. Everything's shaded in yellow. So that's McCreary, Whitley, southern Knox, Kentucky, and the southern portions of Bell County, Kentucky. So again, this entire line, a little bit different speed than the ones that are further to the east. Theo, any update on those ones that are kind of making their way now down towards Granger and Hamblin County areas? Anything that's kind of jumping out there?
I want to quickly mention something for you to maybe look at real quickly is the VTI is also a 3 on even that western McCreary County one.
Okay.
Probably kind of a mix of up to 60-mile-per-hour winds and some quarter-sized hail. Good news with a lot of these going closer to the radar site here, kind of getting a little bit messy, but Morristown is where we host the radar site there, the National Weather Service does. These are really starting to fall apart. So again, 50, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, still kind of the primary concern, starting to move a little bit quicker than the main line that's still stuck back here in southeastern Kentucky, but definitely good to see a weakening trend. I'm not seeing really any sort of rotation with these here. Look at that. Barely any rotation at all on our detector. Any sort of notches or little shear quick spin ups would be closer to the Kentucky border. Not anything with this. Really, it's going to be the straight line damaging wind threat, kind of where those greens are now changing into reds, because remember, green is towards the radar. So these are heading closer to the radar site, which is right there just on the south, kind of right underneath the M and O in Morristown. And then the reds are, we're really going to start seeing a lot more reds as it goes past the radar and then eventually towards the south and west of the radar there. But overall, very good to see this weakening trend. Again, not necessarily weak, but weakening trend. Nothing like what it first was when we saw this enter our area, but still, again, 40, 50, maybe up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Definitely good to not see the shear going on there. Let's take another look at hail. No hail with these either. That would also be back up in McCreary County, Whitley County as well. Kind of do a quick little overview here of what's going on, because I know we have a lot of questions of what about timing for my community, or I haven't seen anything yet. Well, this is all up, mainly up still closer to the Kentucky border, especially this kind of back western line. Still almost all of our Kentucky counties seeing that. But then this is places like Cocke County, Greene County, Union County as well, Hamblin County, Granger County. So still mainly our northeastern county areas, but notice a lot of East Tennessee completely dry right now. Overall, this is continuing to drift off towards the south and the east. I-40, still give or take about 2 hours or so, a little bit sooner if you're on the eastern side of Knoxville, I-40, but really Knoxville, I-75 corridor southward, 10, 11, midnight, 1 o'clock. It's going to be kind of slow mover. We're continuing to see this start to turn a little bit more this way, left-hand side for the storm motion, but looking at it, it's more turning to the right. And then we still have this additional activity behind it that's going to really give us that flooding concern. But good to see the weakening trend, especially the further east we go. I think the main concern for damaging wind gusts and a few spin-ups, really going to have to watch McCreary County, Whitley County, and Knox County.
Yeah, I'm going to look a couple of the wind areas you just talked about into Kentucky. Theo, I want you to see, it looks like we may be getting a couple of cells starting to develop now west Knox County. Could be ahead of that outflow boundary that we talked about, so I'll let you take a look at that. But let's look at a couple of areas. I've kind of zoomed in right here close to Pine Knot, south of the Gilreath area, Silerville. Where you see that kind of brighter pink, pretty close to Pine Knot Elementary, we can kind of query that, and that jumps out at me as getting close to 50-mile-per-hour winds. Again, right there at that elevation from the radar, we're about 4,600 feet up. So it's still pretty high in the atmosphere, but it wouldn't take much to get those kind of winds down to the surface. So 50-mile-per-hour winds, yeah, that could certainly do some damage. So again, if you're in that area, I want to just make sure you're in a safe spot. That's till 9:30 as this warning goes here. So I'm going to clear that off for you. Now I'm going to put a track on just that little part of the cell that I have right there where those strong winds were showing up. So if this is moving at about 30 miles per hour to the south and east. So the Strunk community about 9:02, Creekmore 9:04, Ketchen at about 9:13, and then we'd be over into Claiborne County at that point. Excuse me, it'd be right on the border between Campbell and Scott County as that's starting to move south and east. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got a warning for those two counties added soon as this is starting to move south and east. But again, Ketchen, that's going to be right on the border there between Campbell and Scott County as that's moving south and east. And that would be something we would keep a close eye on, I'd say, as that's moving in that direction. Let's get another quick update. Theo's checking on some of those storms. As you can see, they're starting to develop now into West Knox County. Most likely, I'll quickly put a loop on this to see if they did form along the outflow boundary. Kind of hard to tell, but I'd say a possibility is that the storm collapsed up through here. You were seeing that rising motion on the west side of town, so we're probably getting some pretty heavy rainfall on that side of town, Theo, at least in West Knox County.
Yeah, quick update. Severe thunderstorm watch has now been expanded to include Knox County here in Tennessee, Blount County, Sevier County, Loudoun County, Roane County, Morgan County, Claiborne, and Campbell County. This is why we said just a few minutes ago, if you're in it or around it, because remember, it was kind of just these counties to the east and north of Knox County. So this has really been expanded quite a bit to most of our area, and it's because of the storms in southeast Kentucky that are going to continue to move off towards the south. So pretty much anyone in the orange, and as we just said a few minutes ago, anyone around it as well. So just about our entire area at least needs to make sure that they're staying safe tonight. Especially the later and later we go, more and more people are going to be wanting to head to bed again. We always say it, you can head to bed. This isn't really a tornado setup. You got to have some sort of way of receiving warnings though, especially the further south you are. We're talking about after 11 o'clock, closer to midnight for McMinn, Monroe, Ray, and Bledsoe counties. So really make sure to set some sort of alarm, receive warnings, have that weather radio programs ready to go to have, wake you up, get you to an inner part of your house, to a bathroom, away from windows, even if it's not a tornado warning. Again, up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, definitely not out of the question that it can do some damage with bringing trees down, power lines down, and even breaking some windows as well. So just wanted to give you that quick update. Severe thunderstorm watch for most of our area. That does include Knox County now, Blount County. Again, places like Roane, Loudoun, Morgan, Campbell, and Scott as well. That goes until 2 o'clock Eastern now, Ken.
Yeah, and oftentimes what happens, these storms will move through before the watch expires, and we do think that's going to be the case. I'd say after about 1 a.m., the majority of us will be pretty quiet. Hey, it's 9 o'clock. Top of the hour here. You're watching some severe weather coverage here on WATE Plus on our Facebook and YouTube channels as well. I've pulled up the traffic map because, again, what we can do is look at some of the traffic cameras with this. And I'll keep an eye on this McCreary County cell. I think there's going to be some gusty winds with this along 27, headed towards Pine Knot, maybe eventually into the Winfield community as well, and also this batch. So I would not be surprised if Scott, Campbell County get a warning soon as this is moving to the southeast. Let's take a look at this one camera that's Sandy Flats. That's I-75 there north of Jellicoe. It's not a streaming camera. It updates about every 10-15 seconds, but you can see there's some water on the lens and the cars are kind of moving. They are going to be moving slowly. I've been watching it update. There it goes there. Let's go a little further south. I want to go there into West Knox County where we're seeing these thunderstorms pop up here right along I-75. Some pretty heavy rainfall. What's interesting with these, Theo, is they're moving to the south and east, so they didn't form along the outflow boundary. They're actually kind of developing out ahead of the environment, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So this is past the split on I-75 and going through Loudoun County, mile marker 83.9, some heavy rainfall. You see the cars moving pretty slowly there. Thankfully, not a lot of traffic on the road. Let's kind of move a little further up. This is over towards South College, kind of west of Pellissippi, west of Level Road. And that's a little bit better camera. You can see the spray getting kicked up as cars are driving through. I'm not seeing any gusty winds at this point. Maybe a little bit of wind coming down the interstate, but I think for the most part, that's just some pretty heavy rainfall there. Let's go a little further inland over towards Bearden High School. So this is going to be near Walker Springs. Same thing. We're kind of seeing that spray getting kicked up from some of the heavier rainfall there. Hey, Theo, what's kind of interesting, I think what they did with the storm that I mentioned coming out of Kentucky is they issued a special weather statement on that instead of a severe thunderstorm warning. Why don't you tell us what that means?
Yeah, definitely good to see that. Special weather statement is not severe thunderstorm warning, fortunately. So severe thunderstorm watch means the conditions are right for severe thunderstorms, which is 58-mile-per-hour wind gust or greater, quarter-sized hail or greater, so 1 inch in diameter or greater, or of course tornadoes would be classified as severe weather. Again, we're not expecting tornadoes tonight. We're watching that very low-end spin-up tornado threat very closely, but that's dwindling very quickly as well. So not zero, but very minimal tornado chance, but really straight-line winds up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's going to be our primary concern. And then, of course, some small hail we're watching. So special weather statement is sub-severe thunderstorm warning criteria. Good to see that weakening trend, and that means just anything a little bit less than that. So still a very strong storm, 40, 50-mile-per-hour wind gust. I'm assuming probably 50-mile-per-hour wind gust is why it's a special weather statement or what it's issued for, if you will. But I'm sure we could see at least some pea-sized hail, dime-sized hail. And of course, torrential rainfall rates. I think we're going to see continued flash flood warnings issued behind this as well.
I'm starting to see the outflow boundary show up a little bit more prominent now that it's getting kind of away from the radar site. You can see this blue line stretching right through here, going into Union County, Granger County. So again, not sure we'll see severe winds with this, which Theo just mentioned 58 miles per hour or greater, but maybe some 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. So hopefully nobody's out on the lake in Norris Lake right now. Move inshore, that would be good. But notice how these storms popped up, right? Slowly moving to the south and east. So this could become a bit of a flooding concern, these storms that aren't moving. But I'll be interested to see what happens when this outflow boundary catches up to those storms that are already developing. Notice how they're also starting to pop here through portions of Sevier County and Blount County. So it's like we said, you drop that rock in a calm pool of water and it causes the ripples to move out ahead of it. So this is already moving out ahead of even the outflow boundary, helping to add just a little bit more lift into the atmosphere, which has caused those storms to pop up a little bit. But it is a little better, we'll say, to see a special weather statement issued for Scott and Campbell County. They're kind of seeing what we're seeing is maybe those storms are losing a little bit of their punch. I showed you earlier looking at that cell that's in McCreary County now, winds were closer to 50 miles per hour, right? Still could cause some wind damage. You don't want to downplay that, but we're not seeing the 60, 70 mile per hour winds like earlier. That's nicer to see comparatively, right? So there's a 35, there's a 27. That's going to be a little less as well. That's 29. So a little less strong than what it looked like earlier as that was coming through. So that's one thing that we're noticing, which is good. Not seeing very gusty winds with the storms that are developing back to the west. It's just heavy rainfall and a lot of lightning that's been showing up. Let's take a look at just the lightning counter on here. And you can see just in this view, so just in these cells, that's 10 strikes in the past 15 minutes. So starting to get a little active between Ball Camp, Amherst, and Hardin Valley, back towards South College as well. So again, downpours, yes, severe, no, and probably not even any gusty winds at this point, which is good. But if these storms sit in the same spot, then we could be talking about some flooding. Let's jump over to our flooding potential map real quick. Most of it's still up into southeast Kentucky. And again, where we have our flash flood warnings, that's Bell County till 11:30, northern Harlan till 10, so that's coming up an hour from now. And then you go back into Knox County, Kentucky till 11:15. So 11:15, 11:30, that's where we've seen, again, some of this heavier rainfall. We've got estimates 2.5 to getting close to 2 3/4 inches, anywhere that brighter yellow is in that area. And that's certainly going to be a concern. Let's check our power outage map. 1,000 in Hawkins, 200 in Harlan, 100 in Knox County, Kentucky. So maybe it's a little less than what it was. That would be nice. I'm going to do, Theo, I'm going to send it back to you for a second. I'm going to switch our camera here looking west to see if we see any of the thunderstorms that are in West Knox County. But I'd say in the short term, that may be more of a flooding concern there than anything else.
Yeah, and it's kind of going to be a little bit of a flooding concern in general, like we've been mentioning. Again, anything in those green flashing boxes is a flash flood warning. The reason we've been kind of harping on that so much is because these are starting to slow down. They are in a weakening trend, still have several severe thunderstorm warnings. Anything in those yellow shading boxes as this blows through. This brown box is the special weather statement, so just sub-severe thunderstorm warning criteria for up to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. But we're continuing to see what we call training thunderstorms, which means they're continuing to develop behind these storms and then moving across some of those same areas as the overall line drifts southward. But the other fact of the matter is that we're talking about isolated to spotty showers and storms ahead of this main line. So maybe you see a downpour, you see an inch or two of rain that saturates the soils, and then you could quickly see another inch or two of rain from this line. And we've been talking about this a lot. This is really just round number one of about 3 rounds that's going to come through over the next 36 to 48 hours. So pretty torrential rainfall here on just the west side of Knoxville. That's likely drifting kind of south and east there. But this outflow boundary, kind of this bluish line, this gust of wind out from the main line of storms. We'll see how that interacts with it, but really starting to see these collapse very quickly. That's definitely a very good sign there. We've had a lot of questions of, what sort of threats, what sort of timing. We'll kind of walk through the threats really quickly. Again, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts in the next couple of hours, the main concern. Once we get past midnight, flooding's really going to continue to ramp up as our main concern past any sort of wind gust issues. Tornado threat is extremely, extremely minimal, just about zero, not quite zero. We could still see a very isolated spin up, very quick spin up. It's getting close to zero. Once we're over the next couple of hours, should be able to go ahead and call that a zero tornado threat. So really wind, then flooding, and then I've been looking at hail very closely. We may have had some pea-sized hail at times in Kentucky. That's really starting to trend down as well. We'll watch that one in Knox County here in Tennessee, though.
Yeah, just starting to pop
that could
up.
have some hail with it as well.
Yeah, I think so. Nothing showing up right immediately, but the light green there is a little bit higher than it was. If you look at the legend just above my head, still showing not likely, but I've seen that increase just a little bit. So it's south of the Y12 area right now, and there's a lot of lightning with this, quite noisy. So that's drifting slowly to the south and east as well. One thing I want to do, I want to go back and take a look. We've had some reports now of damage starting to roll in back near Bean Station. So Hancock County near Treadway at about 8:44, so what, 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. Some trees reported down in that area, and then this as well near northeast of Bean Station, just about 6 minutes ago, reports of trees down. So that makes sense. Let's check to see if we have an update with any of our power outages in the area. So nothing yet. It sometimes takes a couple minutes to show up, but there's 1,000 in Hawkins County, so that kind of makes sense with some of these thunderstorms we've seen move through. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looking at some winds, nothing that's showing us the potential again for anything rotating. It's not that kind of a setup. Heavy rainfall, certainly. It's really been interesting. I'll show you this, a time lapse just from the past 30 minutes. Notice how these storms just really blossomed across the area there in West Knoxville. Now we're seeing them in Sevier County as well. It could have been partially due to the outflow boundary that's sliding south and east. It was just a little bit ahead of that outflow boundary, but I'll be interested to see what happens as this boundary gets a little bit closer to some of these thunderstorms to see if it enhances it or it just kind of wipes the slate with them and kind of quiets things down a little bit. Let's go back to our traffic camera real quick, and what I do want to take a look at, see if we can see what they look like. So let's go out west. This is Gallagher View. A lot of spray getting kicked up, as you can see. Cars still moving along okay, a little faster than I would probably feel comfortable with in this kind of downpour that we're seeing, but please use caution. Let's go a little further. We'll go up Pellissippi. This is going to be up towards the Level Road area. You can see the bridge there. There's a lot of spray getting kicked up, but cars moving along okay there. A little further south, we'll go towards Webb School, Mabry Hood area. This is on Pellissippi. That's some heavy rainfall there. So kind of persistent heavy rainfall. We'll keep an eye on this little cluster that's south of the Y12 campus, right on the border there between West Knox County and Anderson County. That's the one that may have a little bit of small hail with it. I'll go back and check real quick. Let's take a look. We can zoom in. I had this looping over the past 30 minutes. I'll stop it and we'll take a look just to see. Okay, now it's starting to show maybe at least that possibility. I'm going to turn off the lightning. We know there's a lot of lightning with that. But right through there, so Scarborough, 919, that's going to be moving right there on the border between West Knox and Anderson County. Hardin Valley, the campus there between the elementary and middle school, high school as well, that's going to be between 925, 926. Robinson Crossroads, 929, we'll see if it holds together heading over towards Padilla at about 931 there in West Knox County. Also, this one cell you can see in the Carnes community, pretty close to the high school. That one maybe looks like it's developed a little bit more. Notice how the yellow's showing up there, so maybe at least some small hail there would be interesting. Maybe if you can drop in the comments there. So we're gonna be, there's Tate School, so that's Bob Gray, Cedar Bluff area, and then we're going over towards Ball Camp Road, near the elementary school. So maybe starting to see some small hail with that. We'll see if we get a report, Theo. But again, it's interesting. I think if this had happened during the middle of the day, the storms could have been a little bit more intense out ahead of this boundary. But it's helping some that the sun has set just, now. There's still fuel, still we need to be watching this, but I think seeing those storms kind of collapsing a little bit further north and east, back through Granger County, Jefferson County's a little bit better, but we'll keep an eye on these storms that are starting to develop well ahead of that line. This is going to be there right on the border now between Blount and Sevier County. There's Ella-Joy, Cusick, and DuPont. DuPont Springs about 922. Walden's Creek at about 934. Again, we could be seeing some small hail in that cell. Let me look at our camera. This is going to be looking back towards West Knox County. This is from downtown. That's the Emerald Youth Fields that are over there. Sanson Park, right there, that green that's showing up, that's where some of the artificial turf soccer fields are. You saw the flash of lightning there in the distance. Going to be pretty active, it looks like, Theo, with those storms there in West Knox County. Any other updates of anything coming in?
Yeah, I've been really closely monitoring our Facebook and YouTube chats. Keep those questions coming in. We'll try to do our best to get to them. Hopefully we've answered a lot of specific cities. I've had a couple of questions. The Morristown area, that's one of our strongest storms outside of that one that Ken just showed you in Knox County. Here's Bean Station, here's Morristown, kind of those little squiggly lines coming off of it. That's because it's the radar site there. So the radar beam is very close to the ground, interacts with some trees or anything, kind of power line poles around the radar. So that's why sometimes you get these little splashes of color. But here's this main storm, Bean Station to Rutledge. This is moving almost due south now, so between Morristown, Jefferson City. So heads up, if you're in Morristown, you've probably seen some pretty gusty winds, but heads up, you're going to see some very heavy downpours here in the next 5, 10, 15 minutes or so. Bulls Gap as well, seeing a lot. The Rogersville area up in Burgoynesville. Maynardville, I've had a couple of questions. Looks like you've kind of been split as of now, but you will be seeing another storm here moving through the next few hours. What about the Farragut area? Ken just kind of mentioned the Farragut area. You're likely seeing that very heavy downpour continuing to grow right now. And then also, what about La Follette? Go ahead and move closer to La Follette. Try to answer that question really quickly. Here's New Tazewell. I've had a couple questions of that. You kind of just got clipped from this storm. Looks like you'll see another one moving through here. Here's La Follette. You're still in that special weather statement for up to 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So right along the Tennessee-Kentucky border here is where we have this strong storm. Jellicoe to the Pine Knot Winfield area, moving almost due southward. There's kind of an outflow boundary over La Follette now. So again, 40, 50-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's not out of the question. And really, if I missed any of your cities, I'm sorry, put them in the chat. But also kind of the main takeaway here is I think the answer is going to be pretty similar. You've either seen some heavy winds and some heavy rain. You're going to, especially if you live east of I-75, north of I-40. Really, I'd say the only counties kind of missing out on this is maybe part of our plateau counties. But even then, may still see some thunderstorms really starting to get going in Sevier County and Knox County. Ken, do you have any updates about those storms?
Yeah, I will get to that in just a second. I wanted to point out this Granger County storm. It pulsed up as well behind the outflow boundary. Nothing really jumping out like large hail, but there may be some dime size, maybe penny sized hail with this. So just under severe limits, but something to watch. You can kind of pick out the communities there. Avondale Springs 918, Helton 924, Boggs at 927. Now this warning goes until 9:30. We'll see if they extend it, but I want to show you just like from the past 30 minutes time lapse here, and you can see how that storm really popped right there between Rutledge and Bean Station. So that one packing a little bit of a punch as it's heading down towards the Morristown area. But a lot of people asking in and around Knox County, these are not severe at this point. Would they get special weather statements? I wouldn't be surprised if they start.
And it just did.
Okay. So there it is. So the brown box showing up, special weather statement. Again, not severe, but doesn't mean you can't have some damage with this. Maybe 40-mile-per-hour winds, I'm guessing, is what they would probably put in the special weather statement for that. So let's put a track on this one cell right there between Tate School and South College. So it's crossing I-40. I'll get to the traffic camera here in a second, but let's take a look who could be impacted. Gulf Park, That's right there at Cedar Bluff, not too far from CAK. There it is at 924. Tate School a little bit further down towards Middlebrook. That's at 925. There's Cedar Bluff Elementary and Middle School, again getting close to the Middlebrook area. Cedar Bluff itself, 926, and there's Knox Catholic at 926. So kind of right around that area there between Interstate 40, Middlebrook Pike area is where we're seeing this cell now. And notice how it jumped back up to a 2.0. So maybe this cell strengthening just a little bit. So it's telling me, again, 80% chance that we do have hail, but only about a 30% chance that it's severe hail. Again, it would have to be 1 inch in diameter or larger to classify it as severe. That's probably why they put a special weather statement on that. Again, the computer estimating maybe 1 inch in diameter hail, but again, let's take a look right from this area. That is 2,500 feet up in elevation that the radar beam as this is going by. It's 2,500 feet up. That's pretty high, right? So that hail, I'd say it's probably closer to dime size. So we'll keep an eye on that. Oftentimes these cells, when they pop up like this, we can see them collapse kind of quickly, right? We can see some damage with those or some gusty winds. So we'll keep an eye on that, but it's kind of interesting, Theo, to see these kind of developing well out ahead of even the outflow boundary or the line of storms, which are coming down now out of Kentucky. Let's take a look at this one in Scott County. Again, we have this, what's called a special weather statement that goes until 10 o'clock. That one's kind of interesting looking. I'll take a closer look at that here in a second, but this cell dropping south, kind of heading towards the I-75 corridor. There's Elk Valley at 940, Stanfill the same, Terry Creek 941, Broyles 947, Buckeye at the same time as that's moving south and east. I'll quickly look. At least some gusty winds with it. Sometimes you look and you see, oh, is that an appendage showing up? I don't think it is. Sometimes the radar, it's worth watching. Shear rate not showing anything great, but something I'll keep an eye on, Theo, as this kind of moves south.
Yeah,
and east.
I'll let you keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
I keep getting a lot of questions about the Morristown area,
Okay.
Granger County. Someone even said, Kelly from Morristown actually said it's pretty quiet. It's not about to be. Here's Morristown. This storm is just on the northern side of Morristown, actually. Here's again the radar site where the beam of energy to scan in the atmosphere and scan these storms is moving. So here's the Boggs community. Crosby here, seeing some very heavy downpours and again some gusty winds, some heavy downpours moving through. Again, here's downtown Morristown. So if you're not seeing it, heavy rain that is, some gusty winds, you're about to for sure. And then La Follette, seeing some gusty winds and lightning. Any hail in the Bean Station and Morristown storms, try to answer that really quickly as well. Let's go here. There's really not been a ton of hail. There's kind of been maybe some pea-sized hail. Well, you know what? That one pulsed up quite a bit. Yeah, at least our algorithm in the Avondale area to Boggs, moving almost towards downtown Morristown here, it's showing 1.5 to 2 inch sized hail. That's not going to happen. We're not going to see 2 inch sized hail today. That would be what they consider egg sized hail or golf ball sized hail, about maybe some pea, nickel, dime sized hail, really some pocket change sized hail. That would be the main thing.
So, sorry to jump in. I want to come back to me real quick. I want to show you I-40 at West Hills. Camera was shaking, so going to be some gusty winds with that. You can see the pink showing up right there. Disregard this. This is basically saying if the roads are changing colors. Everything green, but you can see there's a little bit of yellow, so it's a moderate slowdown. The pink you're seeing here, I have the radar overlaid over the top of the TDOT SmartWay cameras. And again, just wanted to show you that brighter pink near Westtown Mall. That is some extremely heavy rainfall. So let's go a little bit further east near Wesley. Look at the camera shaking here. Theo, maybe 40-mile-per-hour winds. Again, this is under a special weather statement. There's some lightning flashing. Look at the slowdown, the westbound traffic. This is eastbound. So again, there's Westtown Mall, there's Bearden High School, there's Dean Hill. So we're kind of coming back towards the Bearden area, moving closer to town. So this is inbound traffic coming to town. That's westbound, and boy, that's some heavy rainfall, Theo. And that was just with a thunderstorm that popped up very quickly. Hard to say if there's any hail falling at this point. You can't really see in the camera, but that's pretty impressive. Another thing I'd say that we need to watch is maybe the potential for some flooding. Let me just go back real quick. I want to look at what kind of rainfall amounts that we've had. All right, there's 3/4 of an inch. So our camera's right about here that we were just looking at with the heavy rainfall. Look at how that just jumped up. 1.15, there's 1.3 in southwestern Jefferson County, northern Sevier County. So that's, again, close to exit 407 where the Buc-ee's is, and then you're going up into Jefferson County. But that 1.5 inches has me a little concerned there in West Knox County. Let's take a look at our flood potential map. Nothing starting to show up just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little uptick somewhere there between Farragut and downtown. I'll go back to the traffic cameras real quick, and you can see that heavy rainfall there. That's what the pink shading is. That's kind of moving over toward, look at the lightning. So that's pretty impressive. You notice the yellow on the roads? That means traffic slowing down. Makes sense with the heavy rainfall. Headed over towards Rothwood, Westmoreland Heights, Rocky Hill community. Yeah, that's some pretty heavy rainfall right there. Special weather statement for Campbell and Claiborne, it looks like. So the ones to the north that we were talking about.
In about 8 different counties. So really what
Yeah.
they've done now is extend that beyond the severe thunderstorm warning. We've been talking about this weakening, still up to 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible. I think that's really a time thing. They haven't really extended it all that further south, but it includes places like Cott County into Sevier County, parts of Knox County, even far northeastern Knox County, beyond the western Knox County storm that we're talking about on I-40 that Ken's just mentioning, but also up into Union and Claiborne and Campbell counties as well. Granger County really seeing the strongest of the storm. You're still under a severe thunderstorm warning, but really I think the reason they did that is to kind of extend the time, but also to indicate that these are in a weakening trend. Again, lots of questions coming out of Morristown. You're about to be hit with some very heavy wind, lightning, heavy rainfall leading to some ponding and some flooding concerns up in Crosby, Timbercrest, Quail Hollow area, and then here's Morristown just to the southeast right there. So you're about to see some very heavy rainfall if you're not already. And then also even some at least small hail just behind the initial onset of rain in the Avondale community. That's drifting off towards the south-southeast as well. Hail isn't our biggest concern. I don't think we see any what we would consider severe sized hail, which is 1 inch in diameter or greater. This would really be pocket change sized hail. You can also see in parts of Cott County there, drifting off towards the south and east, some pea-sized hail possible as well. Parts of Sevier County seeing some possible hail as well. We'll keep a close eye on any sort of shear rate over the next couple of hours there, but really the shear overall, I haven't seen a lot of it, Ken. Have you?
Nope, really haven't, Theo, and that's a good thing, right? We're just seeing not rotation, but some strong winds. A lot of lightning as well. This is our Tellico Village camera. I'm moving it just a little bit back more towards the northwest, and you'll see all that lightning. So we're kind of looking back towards the West Knox County storm here, there in Tellico Village. You can see it just illuminating the sky here. I do want to also show you, this is Gatlinburg at Anakeesta, some very heavy rainfall there. Winds may be gusting 15, 20 miles per hour, nothing extreme at this point, but we'll keep an eye on it. Then downtown Knoxville, looking back towards the west, we've seen frequent lightning strikes with this, as you can see, still ongoing. What I'll do is I'll turn this camera just a little bit more back towards a west-southwest direction, so kind of looking back towards the storms that are there over towards the Farragut area, and that's kind of what we're seeing here with all this lightning. So pretty impressive, that lighting up across the area there with these lightning strikes. Let me go back to the traffic cameras. Still see some of the heavier rainfall over towards Dean Hill. This is going to be Wesley Road and I-40. Camera still bouncing up and down a little bit. Again, these are mounted probably about 40 feet up in the air, maybe 50 feet on some of these towers. But that's still some pretty gusty winds right there on the TDOT SmartWay cameras. And again, the yellow shading, that's moderate slowdowns across the area. So it makes sense. It's nighttime. It's raining hard. Traffic's still pretty active moving through the area, and that's going to slow people down. So that makes sense. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. Let's take a look at these down Pellissippi Way. So kind of heading down closer to the airport. So this is 140 in Scott Lane. A lot of lightning, thankfully not a lot of traffic there, but that would be heading south, across the river, back down towards the airport. A lot of lightning with that. And then a little bit further south, this is Pellissippi at topside. You see the lightning there as well. Storm's getting a little bit closer. Theo, any more hail showing up in any of those storms? I know we were looking inside that earlier, like any of the ones that are in and around Knoxville at this point or northward.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Granger County one really pulsed up, Knox County one pulsed up. Here's the Granger County one. Maybe it's some tiny little hail, but really that started to trend down. Even in the New Tazewell area, starting to trend down. This one up closer towards Scott County and Campbell County, that's been a little bit more interesting as this one's pulsing back up at least a little bit. When I say pulsing back up, kind of gaining a little bit more energy, growing in size and in height in the atmosphere, which allows for a little bit more upward motion, a little bit more hail growth, if you will, a little bit more allowing for some hail to form inside of the storm. Northern Scott County, here's the Scott-Campbell County line. There, this is drifting off towards the southeast. So remember, anything in the yellows is going to be up to quarter-sized hail, at least in our algorithm. Take that with a grain of salt this time of year, probably half that or so. So maybe some pea, dime, again, pocket change sized hail. I don't think it's anything severe, but definitely something to keep in mind if you see any of those greens, but especially when you start seeing those yellow shading pop up. That could be at least some small hail there. Special weather statement continues for Campbell and Scott County. Let's see when
can you see the yellow, the severe thunderstorm warnings? Those are about to expire in 1 minute. Yeah. But can you see the faint brown line that they've surrounded from Scott County now all the way back down into Cott County?
Oh, that's a good point.
So what they're doing is they're going to let the warnings, now they're about to expire. You'll see them disappear on your screen here any second. But they've replaced them with special weather statements, basically meaning, all right, there it goes. They all just disappeared, but we still have the special weather statements going till 10:15, basically saying, all right, they're seeing kind of what we're seeing, the downward trend. They're not as severe. We're not seeing 58 mile per hour winds or greater. Could we still be seeing 40 to 50? Yes. Could that still cause some concerns? Absolutely. It could cause some isolated damage, some tree branches. I always say this time of year, right, the trees are in full bloom. And what can often happen, it's like a sail in a sailboat. You get these gusty winds, it can knock these trees over a lot easier than if it were, fall after the leaves had fallen off or early spring before they have started to blossom out. So it doesn't take much. In some of these areas, if you picked up a lot of rain over the past couple of weeks, maybe the roots aren't quite as grabby in the ground, if you will, so easier to get pushed over. So all those can sometimes lead to the potential of causing some concerns with trees down and or power outages. Quick little lapse. You can see this bright green. We're soon going to be seeing this move right through our station. And I'll be interested to see what kind of winds we get with our little weather station we have outside. Maybe we get some 35 mile per hour winds or so, but that's what the bright green is showing up from Maynardville all the way down into northern Sevier County. That's the outflow boundary behind those storms as they kind of collapse. And even back towards the north and west, we've seen a little bit of a weakening trend there, but I still think it was quite interesting, Theo, to see these storms develop well ahead of the outflow boundary, even though they are starting to catch up now, and look how they're kind of filling in a little bit from Knox County all the way through Sevier County out ahead of that boundary. And notice the one that formed in Cott County. That was just due to the outflow boundary. Watch right there, caused those storms to expand and kind of blossom in the area there in Cott County. So maybe we slowly start to transition more into a heavy rain potential, maybe some isolated flooding. Let me quickly just go back and check. I want to see what kind of rainfall amounts that we've been seeing here in West Knox County, up to 1.33 inches. Same thing up into Jefferson County and southern Jefferson County. I'll switch over to our product real quick and see if it's indicating, thankfully not seeing anything jumping out saying, hey, there's a potential for flash flooding here, but we know these areas, especially in West Knox County, there's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of asphalt, there's a lot less grass than there used to be a long time ago. So that's where we get to be seeing some standing water, some ponding water, but not seeing any initial flash flooding concerns, which is good, Theo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we even might have a product that's like rainfall rates.
Yes.
That would be kind of interesting to show. But I want to zoom things out, show what's to our north and west. This is using now the Nashville's radar. We've been really focused on our more local Morristown radar, but you can really see some very intense rainfall rates. This is kind of outside of our area. This is McCreary County right here, including Pine Knot, Ventress County right here, so just to the north and west. Monticello's right here, Columbia, Campbellsville, here's Somerset, Kentucky. All of this little batch of green flashing boxes, again, is flash flood warnings for some 2, 3, even 4-inch rainfall amounts there. Even this little icon here, this looks like this little house. It's a flash flood report there. So that's really a concern that I'm starting to see. This is all back building behind us. I have this on a 30-minute loop to show, hey, some of us have not even seen storms yet, but some of us have seen this initial line. This is all behind it, continuing to move off. So I'd say just about everybody, if not everybody, ends up seeing at least some sort of rain, and some of us may see way too much rain in too little time.
Yeah, Theo, you talked about rainfall rates. Again, that's what we're looking at here. So this product is basically saying, okay, if these storms weren't moving at all, like they were sitting in the same spot, which they're not doing, they're moving, you'd be seeing 7-inch per hour amounts. Not going to happen, right? The storms are moving. But that is pavement pounding kind of rain. That's the kind that's going to slow down, as we saw, people that are trying to drive across the area. So this is the cell that's there in West Knox County, close to Bearden High School. I'll go back to the traffic map real quick, and you can see right through there. That's where the heavy rainfall is. Let's see what the traffic's looking like now near Bearden Elementary, so close to Weisgarber, as the camera may be down. Okay, so getting some reports that maybe some of these traffic cameras are down. Could be weather related, hard to say. But there's Wesley Road, I-40, that's between Dean Hill and Bearden. The high school, let's go a little further west of Bearden towards Bridgewater. Yeah, look at the slow traffic there, man. That's, again, this is what we're talking about, that pavement pounding kind of rain. A little further down Cedar Bluff. We're going west here, and you can see slow there. Let's go a little further west towards Pellissippi. This is at Lovell Road. Much the same, slow go. And this will be right there at Campbell Station and I-40. Oh yeah, that's a slow go. So not real surprised to see the slow driving that's going through there with all this heavy rainfall that's popping up. Let's go a little further towards the 40-81 split. That's right there at the split. See a lot of lightning, slow traffic there. And we'll go to this one that's on the 40 side there. So that's just past the 81 split, mile marker 422 1/3. And again, kind of dark there. But Theo, I think, again, maybe even if our severe threat is slowly diminishing, the flooding threat, I think, is still going to be a concern coming up in the short term, especially where these storms have developed out ahead of the outflow boundary, like we said. They've been slow moving, and just you get a lot of rain in a short amount of time. Yeah,
absolutely. One little storm I'm keeping a really close eye on here is in Cott County. So here's I-40, Cosby Elementary, here's Newport. VTI is up to a 2.4, so let me click on that, and I'll get back on screen here, time out the communities. I think it's mainly just gusty winds is kind of what this is sniffing out, maybe some pea-sized hail. But for Finney Patch, 941, so here in really just the next few minutes, Grassy Fork Elementary at 950, Grassy Fork Community itself at 955, and then Waterville at 1004. Again, VTI up to a 2.4. Hail, 80% chance there. This is the Bluffton community right here. Here's Willow Springs. So you kind of see these reds and greens touching. It's not really any sort of rotation the way it looks. We'll look at that. Maybe some weak rotation. But overall, I think this is mainly a straight line wind event, if anything. But this one's definitely pulsing up a little bit more for sure. Something to keep a close eye on there. This is definitely heading up into the Smokies. Again, here's I-40. It's kind of almost traveling along I-40 towards the south-southeast here, North Carolina line right here. So this isn't going to last too much longer. Just to the south of Newport, a few claps of thunder here at our studios as well.
Generator, guys, just to be safe.
Yeah, good idea. A little bit of an interesting kind of feature here using debris detector. Likely not any sort of debris in the atmosphere, but maybe indication of some larger hail up in the atmosphere that the radar is scanning there. Really what this does is look at the difference of sizes in just anything that's in the atmosphere. So rain, hail, if it's anything that's kind of different, non-symmetrical, then hail would definitely be picked up on this, not just debris. So that's kind of something interesting to keep a close eye on. Could see a little bit larger hail there. But really that's the most intense storm that's kind of caught my eye, other than the one that we're keeping a close eye on in Knox County there.
Yeah, I'm just checking our winds. We're only at about 4 miles per hour downtown Knoxville right now, so that line hasn't worked its way in just yet. The outflow boundary we were talking about.
Yeah.
Flood
Still
advisory just issued for Knoxville.
And that makes sense. Yeah, still special weather statement for Cott County. There's not really the reds and greens touching each other, so I don't think this is...
Just saw a huge lightning strike.
Wow. Yeah.
You're probably going to hear the thunder here in any second. It looked like it definitely was cloud to ground and hit something on the ground.
Zoom back out here real quickly. There we go. Here's kind of the winds overall. Let's go back to just kind of reflectivity, reset really quickly. There we go. Wider view, you can really see these are starting to collapse. I mean, we don't even have nearly the thunder, the lightning rate that we had just a few minutes ago. Really, all these brown boxes here, kind of tough to tell, but kind of circling my hand there. That's special weather statements for 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust potential, but really the heavy rainfall potential. Then a few storms starting to form out in front. So Cott County, stronger storm there. Sevier County starting to move through. Knox County, including really even into downtown Knoxville as well. And then also keeping an eye on some more additional storms starting to form in parts of western McMinn County. Here's I-75, Ray County, Meigs County, and then even back into Bledsoe County. So really a lot of us, almost all of us, are going to see at least something in the way of rainfall as we go over the next few hours. But it looks like severe chances really starting to diminish, Ken, which is really a good thing to see.
Yeah, what I'm really interested to see again is this brighter green. That's the outflow boundary stretching from Union County, northeast Knox, down into the Sevierville area now. What's going to happen when it interacts with these storms? We'll see. Sometimes it briefly strengthens them, sometimes it cuts them off, right? Just like a cheese grater, and can kind of shred them apart. That would be the best thing, right? Take away any of the updrafts or the rising motion in the air. But we'll see. A lot of times I've seen it where it enhances the updraft or makes the storm grow really quickly briefly, and then it collapses, and that's when you can have some wind concern. But I'm waiting for this line to move through our station here on Broadway in downtown Knoxville. I'll be interested what kind of winds we get. I bet we're 35, maybe gusting to 40. That's why the Weather Service went ahead and issued the special weather statement for everybody. So it's moving through Norris right now. It's moving through the Coreyton, Plainview community, all the way over towards House Mountain, Strawberry Plains, the Carter community. It's moving through your area now. That's not even a thunderstorm. You're just getting gusty winds from the outflow boundary that's moving through. But boy, there's a lot of lightning with that cell that's now from Knoxville southward going down towards Pellissippi. Let's take one more kind of tour of some of the traffic cameras here for you, and I want to see what we're getting kind of rainfall rates. So let's start closer into town. This is going to be right there. This is Alcoa Highway and I-40. Look at the camera kind of buffeting there in the winds. That's pretty gusty for sure. Let's go a little further south down Alcoa Highway. This is going to be down towards Cumberland, so closer to the university. Looks like maybe the rain just about to start there. Probably has just started. Yeah, you can see some of the spray getting kicked up, but we don't have a lot of the standing water like some areas where the rain has been moving through. Let's go a little further south down Alcoa. So we're heading back down towards the airport. So this is right where Pellissippi and Alcoa Highway meet. Look at the winds there. So Theo, check the airport if you don't mind. See what kind of obs we're getting from McGee-Tyson, which is going to be kind of right over here. Maybe we're getting some 30+ mile per hour winds. That wouldn't surprise me there, at least. But I'm going to go back a little bit further down Pellissippi. So now we're kind of heading back west on Pellissippi. This is Topside, east of Old Topside Road. Man, you can barely see. Again, this is the pavement pounding kind of rain as you're crossing the river/lake there. Look at the lightning. Look at the slowdown. So everything in yellow on the roads, that's going to be a slow traffic pattern, which certainly makes sense when you're getting this kind of heavy rain. That's Tools Bend. So again, we're getting close there over the water. You can see the water stretching right through here. There's Pellissippi going back towards North Shore. This is Alcoa Highway to kind of put it in perspective. Airport down further to the south. Anything showing up at the airport yet, wind-wise, Theo?
Gust of 19 here 9 minutes ago.
Okay, we'll probably see that jump up
with
shortly.
light rain.
I want to come in a little bit closer to town. This is 40 at Western. Ugh, not far from our studios. That's some heavy rainfall right there, friends. So that's I-40 at Western. That's a slow go. Thankfully, this isn't right in the middle of rush hour, but it is bad enough for people that are either traversing through town. You know, a lot of people come through Knoxville on their way either to North Carolina or back to the western part of the state heading towards Arkansas. It's a busy thoroughfare. I-75 as well from Florida northward all the way up through Michigan. It's a busy place. There's Woodlawn. Look at the spray. Gusty winds, heavy rainfall. Ooh, that truck was moving a little too fast, I'd say. So yeah, that's what we're seeing over there towards the stadium, UT campus. Welcome back, students. Another semester about to begin next week, I guess. Started moving in yesterday. Yeah, look at all that heavy rainfall. Let me go back. I want to show you our camera from downtown Knoxville. Heavy rain has moved into downtown. You can't even see beyond about half a mile now, being obscured by the heavy rain as we're kind of looking back. It's falling now on our roof. It's probably going to get a lot louder here soon as well, which often happens. Hopefully we don't get knocked off the air. I know that we are on our generator now because I can hear that running as well. Can you hear that?
Oof.
That's pretty heavy.
Oh yeah.
Want to step out the back door, Theo?
Yeah, we'll get that on the mic. One thing to watch is that one in northern Sevier County as it interacts with the outflow boundary.
Okay, let's take a look. So again, we're getting the combination of the outflow boundary and the storms moving over our area. Theo's talking about right there. There's the outflow boundary in green hitting the storms that are in the Gatlinburg area. What's going to happen with this? Does it shave the storms apart or does it enhance them? We'll have to wait and see. Let's just take a look at what Gatlinburg looks like right now. That is Tellico. There's Gatlinburg. So that is Anakeesa. Look at the winds blowing.
You ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. It's blowing around a lot.
All right.
Sheets of rain.
Don't stay out there too long. A lot of lightning in the area. All right, there's Crossville, Cumberland County. It's all quiet there. Thankfully, you've been spared by some of these storms. There's downtown, and you can barely see. Again, we're looking southwest. Neyland Stadium's right there. There's the heavy rain that's coming through. I'm just going to step around and check. Winds only gusting to about 10 right now, but I bet it's going to pick up any second. Our weather station just around the corner over here. You know what I'll do? I'm just going to bring the weather station over here and we'll be able to see it. See if it jumps up. Reporting extreme rain. Makes sense.
That'd be my report too.
Seeing a 12 mile per hour gust right now, 11, 12. Sustained at about 7, 8. So we'll be able to tell here pretty quickly what kind of winds we're going to get as this outflow boundary is making its way through. Again, let's go back and we can see there's the outflow about to make its way here into Knoxville, and there's the heavy rainfall. Have you noticed, Theo? It doesn't look like they've enhanced the storms yet near Gatlinburg. But just the interaction, I would imagine we're going to get some 30+ mile per hour winds in some of those areas. Let's take a look. There's downtown. There's Gatlinburg. There's Anakeesta. Brave soul there. Be careful. All right, which camera is that? Okay. We got 40 at Hall of Fame. Let's see. There it is. There's I-40 at Hall of Fame. Yeah, that's pretty active. That's some heavy, heavy rainfall going through downtown. All right, I was trying to look at I-40 at 275 and it's out. So sometimes these get hit by lightning or have some issues. There's 40 at Western. Yeah, that's pretty significant right there. Heavy rainfall, slow go. And again, technically not severe, right? We're not seeing 58 mile per hour winds, but not a lot of fun to drive in, that's for sure. I'm gonna go back real quick. What I do is I have just a 15-minute loop so you can see how quick that outflow boundary's moved. I'd say areas to the north, severe threat really starting to taper off. But Theo, keep an eye on those storms trying to come into Union County, coming out of Campbell into Union. I'm gonna let you focus on those. I'll kind of focus on these. Still quite a bit of lightning. You can hear the thunder overhead. Let's go back and take a look at our camera. This will be downtown, really obscured. Oof, there's a big flash. You'll hear it any second. Looking back towards the Hilton and the distance there, that's Neyland Stadium. Century Bank, US Bank building here. Man, that is some real strong winds. Let's see what we're seeing here. Looks like we had a gust. We had a gust of 15 so far, so nothing extreme. We'll keep an eye on it. The rainfall rates are pretty quick. We've already picked up more than 1/4 of an inch of rain just since it started here. That's pretty significant. So 40 at Western, let's take a look at that. Ugh, yeah, that's miserable. Slow go. That's I-40 Western T-Dot SmartWay cameras. And again, not officially severe. I do want to show you, remember we talked about the flooding potential. Starting to see that elevated flood risk along Interstate 40, not real surprised. Let's take a look at our rainfall estimates. There's a 2-inch bullseye right there, close to Bearden High School. So there's Kingston Pike, there's Gleason, Kingston, Suburban Hills. So that's a 2-inch swath right through there. So yeah, it makes sense. Probably seeing some isolated flooding in some of those spots. So Gatlinburg Airport gusted to 30 to 35. So did Morristown. Let's see what the others were. Also, Scott and Campbell gusted 20 to 25. So
looks
again,
like, McGee Tyson just gusted to 34.
okay.
We got a winner.
So below severe, but
Yeah.
what else are you seeing over there, Theo?
Keeping a close eye on that Union County one, VTI of a 2.4. So this is near the Alder community heading towards Walnut Grove. Let's step in here and time it out. Again, Walnut Grove here in the next few minutes. Big Ridge Elementary, 10:17, so I still have about 20 minutes or so. And then Hines Creek Valley, 10:21, same for Pine Hook. Very minimal hail. I really think the VTI is elevated for mainly winds. Let's talk about the winds a little bit here. Something I've definitely noticed is at least a little bit of interaction kind of with that outflow boundary, a little bit of greens and reds touching. I don't think there's enough rotation to be too concerned about necessarily, but something at least we're keeping a very close eye on. Hail, basically non-existent, keeping a close eye on the shear. Very messy, nothing really all that indicative of very intense shear. Pretty gusty winds. Those brighter reds would really be the gustiest of the winds there. That's really where we have, I mean, it's not even really raining there. That's the outflow boundary pushing through northeast to southwest. So that's probably the gustiest of the winds is going to be associated with this outflow boundary. Maybe wait a couple minutes and then you'll see some very torrential downpours as well. Rain really starting to kind of make its way across much of East Tennessee. If you haven't seen it yet, you're probably going to see it pretty shortly. And it does look like these Knox County into Sevier County storms, that's really the gustiest. And I think the reason for that is just ahead of the outflow, a little bit more instability or storm fuel in place, as opposed to once you're behind the outflow, these are pretty much used up all of their energy, and it's really just a flooding concern.
Hey, Theo, one thing I have noticed, though, the interaction with that outflow boundary we talked about, it enhanced the storm near Sevierville. Look at this is only 15 minutes. Look how it just popped.
And even
right
that
there.
last scan of 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, so in just 2 to 3 minutes. So this is what we were wondering. Does it cut the storms off, or does it give them a little bit of a boost? Well, in this area, it certainly gave it a bit of a boost. So right along 411, east or west rather of the Sevierville area, that storm blossomed quickly. Now we're getting some really heavy rainfall. Seeing the heavy rain in downtown, again, we've not had anything more than a 15-mile-per-hour gust here at our station, but I want to show you what it looks like. You can't even see. Usually you can see the stadium from here. That's the view. That's pretty impressive. That's some heavy, heavy rainfall. Let's take a look. Crossville, quiet. There is Anakeesa, so that's Gatlinburg. Winds are pretty gusty there, some heavy rainfall. I'd say winds are probably 20 miles per hour, maybe 25. Nothing extreme, but a lot of heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning there. Let's check our rainfall estimates again. Still seeing that bullseye of over 2 inches there, close to Bearden. Crossing Interstate 40. Anything else jumping out? Nothing yet, but I imagine these rainfall rates are going to really pick up in and around the downtown Knoxville area. There's one kind of bullseye there. Claiborne, Hancock County border, Theo, and Granger County, maybe something to watch for some flooding there soon. And I think that's maybe more that we'd be starting to turn into, right? The potential for some heavy rain and maybe some additional flooding is probably going to be a concern in the short term.
Yeah, and one spot that really hasn't seen much in the way of rainfall at all, and it's about to see a very hefty downpour. Not even a special weather statement on this storm, at least the direction it's heading, but for Scott and Fentress County, you haven't really seen all that much. Eastern Scott County, yes, but Fentress County, Western Scott, you haven't seen a lot. Very heavy downpours with up to 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible as this system traverses to our south. And notice this is all out to our north and west. Torrential downpours with this just on the northern side of the Kentucky border there. This continues to drift off towards the south and east. So plateau counties, you're probably about to see some, or not about to, but within the next hour to 2-3 hours, you'll start to see those rain chances really pick up. Looks like almost everybody will end up with at least something as this kind of last line blasts through, and we'll watch if there's even additional shower and storm activity behind that. But yeah, flooding concern really going to be elevated with that.
I think we're going to see a flooding concern from Knoxville to Gatlinburg, right where that boundary interacted. I've really seen these storms blossom. Again, this is just a 15-minute time lapse, and watch. That's impressive. Just boom, the storms that are blossoming here. That could turn into a serious concern for some flooding in the area here from Knoxville, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. Quite noisy, that's for sure. 137 lightning strikes in the past 15 minutes. I want to show you this. Getting some reports of some power outages now. 400 in Knox, 300 Jefferson, 100 in Sevier, 600 Harlan, 200 Bell, Knox, 100 in Whitley, and Lee County, Virginia. So I think these may continue to go up as well, Theo. That wouldn't surprise me at all to see some additional concerns. One thing I want to do, let's take a look. This is how all this has kind of progressed. Again, we saw the storms develop, and then when that outflow hit, even more popped up. We'll still watch, I think you're right, that pipeline of rain that's coming out of Kentucky into our plateau counties. At least we haven't had a lot of rain here yet, but they have in southeast Kentucky. So the flooding threat will continue there. We'll see if it starts to go up through portions of Scott and further to the east. let's take a look. So this is 6 predictor, kind of an idea of where some of these storms could go. There's 10 o'clock through midnight, 1 a.m. This may turn more into a flooding threat until we get to about 1 or 2 a.m., Theo, and then we see a bit of a break, kind of catch our breath, and then I think we see a little bit more as we head closer to tomorrow afternoon. Look at midday, seeing a few more storms starting to develop across southeast Kentucky. And as we talked about, there is an elevated risk. Elevated risk, a medium risk for some flooding across the area. Hey, don't forget, please, when it's safe, you can go to wate.com/report it, and you can submit photos if you have some damage in your area, but please only if it's safe to do so. You can also do it through our weather app. There's a little picture of a camera that you just click on, and it's an easy way to do it, to send us reports, and we can show them here on air. So we would love to be able to do that when it's safe for you to do so.
And speaking of reports, Ken, we just got a report on Facebook saying flooding is causing closures on paper mill. So that's something to keep a close eye on.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
With all that rain that we've seen across the area there in the west side of Knoxville. Let's take a look. So this is west of the 75-640 area. Slow down there for sure. We'll travel a little further west towards Paper Mill. And again, it's probably on the road itself, not on the interstate. That traffic looks to be moving along. But again, there's a lot of concrete, a lot of asphalt in this area. You start to get into West Knox County. So it doesn't take much to cause some flooding concerns. Obviously, if you get this amount of rain in a short amount of time. So there is Paper Mill on I-40. Looks like a car there. I don't know, it may be just at a stoplight or a stop sign, but they don't have it zoomed into where we can see, but it looks like at least the heaviest rain has let up a little bit there compared to what it was earlier. But boy, that is heavy rainfall. Look at that from Asbury all the way over there into portions of Sevier County. So that's kind of what I'd be concerned about, Theo, is, again, even though the severe threat may be decreasing, the flooding threat is most likely going to be sticking around for a little bit over the next couple of hours.
Yeah, and I've had about 3 or 4 questions over the last 10, 15 minutes of Cott County, Newport area, Cosby area as well, Luttrell. So here's pretty much all of Cott County. Here's Newport, here's I-40. Really starting to dwindle. Not to say you're not going to continue to see shower and storm activity. I also had someone ask if they could go to bed in Cott County. Pretty much everywhere we've been saying you can go to bed, and the severe threat is extremely, extremely minimal.
Flash flood warning for Knoxville.
Okay, and that makes sense. Someone actually just asked what's the biggest concern for Knox County, and someone asked what's about UT downtown Knoxville. Again, you're welcome to go to bed. Severe threat's very minimal, but make sure to have ways to receive warnings on your phone or weather app. You can download our free Storm Team 6 app in the App Store. Just search Knoxville weather. Also a NOAA weather radio would be a good idea. But a couple questions here, UT downtown Knoxville, and then also what's the biggest concern, really just in general the biggest concern. We can sum that up with flooding now, I think, right, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. Flash flood warning is going to go until midnight. Area shaded here in green, so that's going to go from the Amherst community all the way over to Bearden, down through A.L. Lott's North Shore, back towards Farragut, and over pretty close to HVA towards Hardin Valley. And again, the bullseye of the yellow there is 2 inches, so that's probably where the focal point is of our flooding, but they kind of just encircle this entire area where we've seen some 1 to 2 inch plus totals. Let me kind of get a couple of more what we call query points on this. I want to zoom in a little bit so we can kind of get a better idea of some of the rainfall estimates. So that's 2.1. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let me do that. Okay. So again, those yellow shadings are going to be well over 2 inches, and that's kind of the area we talked about from Kingston Hills, Suburban Hills, it's Hardwick Drive, Kingston Pike, Bearden, Green Valley, Trails West, that's a subdivision. There's Gleason, there's Suburban, Bridgewater, Kildare, all the way down through Ramsgate Drive. So that is really some very heavy rainfall. That's where we could be seeing some flooding concerns here. And I think, Theo, that's probably where this is really going to transition into, is more of a flooding concern. But as of right now, that's a huge flash flood warning area for all of West Knox County, just west of the Pellissippi Parkway area. We've had about ½ an inch of rainfall here at our studios. Back at my house, I live in Carnes. I've had, let me get a quick little rainfall update. I've only had a couple of hundredths of an inch, so probably hasn't started to rain really heavily there yet. I think it's just missed my area, just to the south and east, yeah. So that rainfall has just been off to my south and east, the way it's been looking. So kind of interesting to see, just a few miles away, you go back towards the Carnes community, we've had hardly any rainfall there, but you go to Bearden, stone's throw away, and you've got over 2 inches. And again, that's kind of what we've seen across the area with these just downpours of rain. Let me just take a quick look at the radar for you again so you can kind of see what we're dealing with. Non-severe, but certainly a light show and certainly some very heavy rainfall. That outflow boundary we talked about, I'll go back 30 minutes and you can really be able to, I'll do 45, and you'll be able to see that boundary interacting, and it enhanced those storms. It didn't make them severe, but it helped them grow and it helped them produce a lot of lightning. Look at the lightning uptick. Jumped to about 100 extra flashes of lightning as it interacted with the spotty storms that were moving to the south and east. Let's take a look at our Gatlinburg camera. I bet we're seeing some pretty heavy rainfall there.
And honestly, I think that might be the strongest storm that we do have, Ken.
Yeah, look at that. That's Anakista.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. You can barely see. And it's not due to fog. It's just extremely heavy rainfall. In the lights, you can kind of see the waves of rain that are moving through, and probably some of the low clouds as well. So if you're visiting in town, maybe you're visiting here in East Tennessee and you're in the Gatlinburg area, storms aren't severe. I know it's hard to say, but heavy rainfall, lightning, maybe some 30+ mile-per-hour winds. I'm sure some of those cabins are rocking, moving back and forth in some of those higher elevation areas. So be careful. Again, that little bullseye right where it indicated we could see some flash flooding, right? There was that elevated risk. And that's right where the warning happened. So this is a great tool that we have here at Channel 6 to be able to show you where flooding could be occurring in the area. Theo, anything else jumping at you? I know you were looking at that cell there in Sevier County.
Yeah, really that's going to be the strongest in terms of rainfall rates. I think that might be our next flooding concern. But I mean, this is just kind of harping on what we've been talking about the last half hour or so. I have this in a 30-minute loop here, Ken. Look at that little outflow boundary, that push of cooler air kind of sparking it from that main line just to our north and east. And then poof, 30 minutes, really even over just the last 15 minutes. Here's Knoxville, I-40, just to the south of I-40, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, all there in Sevier County. I mean, almost all of Sevier County in the last 15, 20 minutes has been encompassed by just pavement pounding rain here. 5+ inch rainfall rates per hour. And really the concern that we've been talking about is it's almost riding eastward along this outflow boundary. I think my question is, does this outflow boundary continue, or does it almost get stuck by now this very intense storm here? Kind of just, again, this is barely moving. Overall flow looks to be eastward to me, and then it's almost back building to the north and west. So I really think flooding is going to be a major concern here over the next few hours. I think many more spots in Knox County, Blount County, and Sevier County are going to see that flash flood warning. So
Theo, go north to Fentress County as well, and notice how that's filling in now and moving south.
Very quickly.
Yeah. So
I mean, again, 30-minute loop here. It definitely a low-end sphere. Oh, but look at that. Brown box just popped up. That's a special weather statement. Yeah. 40, 50 mile per hour wind gust, almost a given with any of these storms, as we've been saying. Non-severe, again, I've had a lot of questions of if you can go to bed. You can go to bed. Really, flooding's the main concern, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. If you're in your house, you're pretty much safe. This is not something you want to be outside in, is really the main thing here. But yeah, that's some very heavy rain moving almost due south. Ventress County, I mean, we are again, 30-minute loop here. Look at how much is filling in the Southern Valley, Southern Plateau, Ken.
It's pretty impressive. And again, this is, again, wind, it's hard to say. Could a tree get knocked down? Could a power line get knocked down? Yes, especially with some of the areas that have picked up a lot of rain over the past 2 to 3 weeks, right? The ground's a little soft. The roots aren't quite as shallow in some of the different types of trees, right? Maybe they're not deep rooted trees. They can be a problem. And look at the power outages now. Over 1,000 in Knox County, 400 in Jefferson, 100 in Sevier and Union, 1,000 now in Hawkins, 600 Harlan, 200 Bell, and 100 for Lee, Knox, and Whitley County up in Kentucky's and Southwest Virginia. So it doesn't take much to cause some of these power outages with these gusty winds that have been moving through the area. Here at our station, I think the strongest wind gusts, we had 15, a 15 mile per hour gust. That was it. I know people at home are saying, I know I had more than that. Well, yeah, we've seen it. As Theo mentioned, 30, 40, maybe 50 mile per hour gusts. But again, the official definition, severe thunderstorm is 58 miles per hour or greater. But it often doesn't take much to cause wind damage in spots. But I really think the areas to the north that haven't had storms yet, there's still fuel there. So some of these storms could easily be producing some stronger winds. Where we've already kind of used up some of the initial fuel, it's turning more into a flooding concern, especially with these moving over the same area. So I think we'll focus, I'm sure, from East Knox County down through Sevier County into Gatlinburg, probably over the next hour. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's take a look. I just want to see if we've had any type of hail reports. I don't see anything really that has jumped out, and that's not real surprising to be able to see. There may have been some small hail. Look at that earlier, Theo. So from the Caswell area, let me turn off the lightning. Maybe some small hail earlier. Millertown Pike over towards the old Easttown Mall, you know, where the Amazon plant is now. So it's kind of just northeast of that. Rutledge Pike. There might have been some small hail, Babley Road over in that area as you're going out towards Ritta. Might have been some small hail with that earlier. This kind of shows over the past hour where there may have been some hail. So let me loop this. Yeah, so that you can see that cell moving northeast. So that makes sense. There may have been some small hail with that, and it was with this cell, the brighter pink that showed up. So maybe we still have some small hail with that cell, as that's kind of interacting with that outflow boundary, right? It's just causing that air to rise. So I'd say if we had any hail, it's pretty close to between Caswell, the Ritta Elementary area, and over towards John Sevier and Arminda. There may be some hail with that. Let me turn the lightning back on and show you just that area right there. That's 14 strikes in just the past 15 minutes. So yeah, we're getting some serious rainfall rates. Let me show you our camera again. That's downtown Knoxville. Now these storms are kind of moving through back towards the northeast, so I'll turn the camera back around.
Oh man, look at Anakista.
Okay, let me go back.
That's a pretty wild camera right now.
Is that 3? Yeah, wow. So there's our Anakista camera. I am zoomed in. I'm zoomed in on it, but there's still, that's some gusty winds for sure. Let me try to zoom back out just a little bit. That'll get you a little seasick there at home. But let me zoom back out. That's still some really strong winds, I'd say, Theo.
Oh, yeah.
With that coming through. Zoom back out.
It's non-severe, like we've been saying, but 30, 40 plus for sure, probably.
And again, this camera is on a tower that's at the top of the chairlift that's going up. But that's pretty impressive. So I'm zooming back out, just a little disorienting to watch, I know, but I tried to zoom back out. But yeah, that's probably, like you mentioned, look at the trees. Whew. That's probably 40 miles per hour.
We'll see
35,
what the
40.
airport looks like. One thing I want to mention again, I know we've been talking about it a lot. Wind threats starting to come down. You know, this initial blast that's moving through your area. It may feel severe to you, but again, 58 plus is severe limits. We have a few special weather statements out there for the 40 to 50 mile per hour potential. Good news is it continues to trend lower and lower, but bad news is that our rainfall rates are anywhere between about 4 to 7 inch per hour rainfall rates. And Ken mentioned a little bit ago that that's if it's sitting on your house for an entire hour, you would see 7 inches of rain. Good news is it kind of ebbs and flows. You see a quick downpour for 5 to 10 minutes, maybe pick up an inch or two, then those rainfall rates die off at least a little bit, maybe kind of ramp back up. But to see this much purple to even almost white on this extreme on our scale here, that's definitely not too good, especially moving into much of Sevier County, just north of the Gatlinburg area, Pittman Center. So gusty winds, lots of very heavy pavement pounding rainfall. But also, Ken, something that I want us to keep a close eye on, or to check real quickly. Weather Prediction Center just updated their rainfall outlook and kind of upped it a little bit as well to match kind of what we're seeing through the rest of this evening.
All right, 9:56 p.m., so a little bit ago. Airport there at Sevierville, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, gust of 41. So like we were saying, the airport's, it's closer to Sevierville. If you know where the Tanger Outlet Mall is, it's kind of behind that, a little further southeast, heading towards the Gatlinburg area, heading towards Pigeon Forge. So this is in Gatlinburg, a little bit further south and east, but you know that's maybe 30, 40 mile per hour winds. That wouldn't surprise me. But the airport did pick up a gust of 41. So that makes sense, Theo, to see those kind of winds with the camera view there. Mm-hmm. Pretty impressive. Again, no active warnings, right? These are just summertime storms with a lot of rain, a lot of wind, a lot of noise, and unfortunately seeing some power outages with some of these as well. And I think that's still going to be a bit of a concern as we go over the next couple of hours, getting closer to midnight and beyond before things do quiet down. Let me do a quick little update of our flooding map. All right, see, there's what we talked about, Theo, right there. Now our forecast product giving us a heads up between Hicks Crossing and Sevierville, a high to very high chance that we're seeing some flooding. So it's kind of near Catletsburg Elementary to the southwest of that. We'll see. Maybe the Weather Service sees that as well, and they may have to issue a flash flood warning. Let's take a look. I'm going to look at the rainfall estimates here. So right through there, that darker green, that's still going to be just below 2 inches. Right there, though, that dark green, we're getting really close. That's probably 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. So we'll see if that jumps up here in the next couple of scans, but that may be our next thing that comes is a flash flood warning for there. That wouldn't surprise me, Theo, to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. New flash flood threat from the Weather Prediction Center here. I-40 northward is now included in this medium risk for flash flooding through the overnight hours. It says today, but it really goes through tonight as well. This is the wider view. So level 1 risk, I-40 southward. Wouldn't be surprised if even that is included in a level 2, but a medium level 2 if you're north of the I-40 corridor, north and east of Knoxville, and even that's a high-end risk just to the north of our area. That does include Lexington, kind of most of far eastern Kentucky there, right on the Virginia-West Virginia border. Some of those spots have seen a ridiculous amount of rainfall and will continue to see rain into the overnight hours. Whenever we get into that level 3 risk, that's very high-end flooding concerns as well. And I actually do want to go ahead and show you tomorrow's flood risk here as well, just to kind of show that this is not a one-and-done situation. So this is a level 2 medium threat across the entire area, in fact. So really through the night tonight, we're going to see round number 1. Then we're going to continue to see waves of rain through on and off rain. You know, it's not going to be rain all day for your Wednesday, but additional rainfall will elevate that flooding concern for some of us as well. So that's definitely not a trend that we like to see, especially this early in the event. A lot of these storms over Knox County, Sevier County, I mean, they're barely moving with the intense rainfall rates that we're seeing. So I really do think this is going to be our first and foremost problem as we go through the rest of the night.
I agree. Got another camera view for you here, Gatlinburg Sky Park. bouncing up a little bit. Look at some of the shrubbery there, some of the trees, the American flag, bouncing up and down. Some gusty winds there, but certainly the strongest winds have been right there at Anakeesta. That's a little bit higher elevation there. Winds just really whipping going through there.
This is not a good report to receive.
What's that?
Reports of roads flooding and stalled vehicles near the Target and Turkey Creek Retail Center.
Yeah, I mean that is again a big concrete area.
Yeah.
And a concern for sure. We won't be able to get a look there. Let's see, the closest camera I think is going to be right here, just west of Pellissippi. And they of course don't, you can't turn it back towards that area. In fact, I can go a little further west. Lovell.
Man, it's just about to open up on top of us here.
So this is where they're talking about. See the red showing up there at Parkside.
Yeah.
So that's Lovell. That's going to be pretty close to that area. So this may be where they're talking about where the flooding. It's where you come off of Lovell and you're going back into the Turkey Creek shopping area. I believe the hospital's right about here. So it's kind of going back in through that area. So that's probably why we're seeing at least the red showing up, meaning traffic certainly slowing down in that area, Theo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, we have a camera shot as well I want to take a look at. This is going to be, this is in Greenback. Lots of lightning off in the distance, just like a continuous light show there. As we're looking back, I think this is back towards the north and east. So it should be looking back towards some of where these storms are here. Again, here's Knoxville. Heaviest rain has moved through. It's a little bit lighter. We picked up just under a ½ inch of rainfall here. Still ongoing, very heavy rainfall. Look at it coming off of the roof here. That's at Gatlinburg Sky Park, and we're still seeing very gusty winds. Maybe not as gusty as before, but still pretty gusty there at the Anakeesta area with the heavier rainfall. And as we mentioned, a 41-mile-per-hour gust there at the airport, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg Airport just a few minutes ago. I think it was right at the top of the hour, so about 25 minutes ago.
Got a few more questions, actually about three, just about the Kodak area, 407 exit, Claiborne County, Coreyton, Talbot, Rogersville. So a lot of just questions of cities. Kodak area, closer to, what is it, East Knox County here, downpours right now. I mean, we're just going to see very heavy torrential downpours over really the next several hours and through much of the night. This is, again, just a 30-minute time loop, kind of similar to what we saw in the Sevier County area. Now look at North Knox County, Ken. I mean, look at how bright these colors popped up over just the last 10, 15 minutes with that outflow boundary moving through. So flash flood warning just popped up here. There's that storm report in the Farragut area near the Target. Kind of a fairly small flash flood warning. Not seeing much rain right now there, but we're talking about much of outside of that warning, Knox County seeing torrential downpours. And unfortunately, the concern is also this drifting towards the south back over some of those same spots that saw flooding. But even Sevier County, I think that's our biggest concern right now, is the fact that this is drifting south and eastward, but additional rainfall, we call it training storms, behind it still pushing into Sevier County. And again, 5 to 7 inch per hour rainfall rates. And I mean, some places are probably seeing at least half an hour or so of that kind of rainfall rate. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick 3, 4, 5 inches in places like Sevierville to Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, and we're seeing the power outages go up as well. Look at Sevier County and Knox County, over 2,000. 1,000 for Jefferson and Hawkins, 1,500 in Blount County. And then we also are seeing over 100 there in Union County, 600 in Harlan County. So some really high numbers of power outages with some of the gusty winds that we've had moving through the area. So that's not much of a surprise either. But as Theo mentioned, I think this is going to quickly turn into a flooding concern. Again, Theo, look at our map here. Where the orange and reds are showing up, the high potential anyway, of seeing flash flooding, even over there in Hartford, Cott County. So would not be surprised if we see more of these issued. Noticed over towards Newfound Gap, Mount LeConte, Elkmont, we're seeing the potential for some flooding there as well. So I think that's maybe more of what this will turn into, is even if the wind threat starts to die down, we may still have some 20, 30 mile per hour winds with some of these, but I think the bigger concern is going to turn into flooding as we go through the next several hours. So it's hard to say when these will completely die down. It may be well after midnight. It may be 1 a.m., 2 a.m. or so, as there's still just a lot of fuel for these storms. And notice the ones, again, that are coming into Fentress County. There's a special weather statement with this. Not severe, but you could start to see some gustier winds because you haven't had any thunderstorms yet in the Jamestown area. So it's kind of heading your way. 1040 Pine Haven, Helena, 1043 Jamestown, 1045, and Glenovee at 1053 as that moves south and east through Fentress County. I'd say that's more of a wind concern. Look at all the lightning. Wow, that's a lot showing up the northern part of Fentress County. Special weather statement there, meaning, again, not quite to severe limits, not to 58 miles per hour or greater winds, but you may have some 40, maybe 50 mile per hour winds. So you may see power outages there, unfortunately. But areas from North Knox County, headed up towards Rita, Fountain City, just pretty close to Coreyton, House Mountain, Carter, into Sevierville, Pigeon Forge. That's heavy rainfall. We've talked about this before. What we can look at is what's called the rainfall rate. Again, these storms are moving, but if they were to sit in the same spot in an hour, you're talking 6 to 7.5 inches of rain. That's just how efficient these are, efficient rain-producing type storms. Thankfully, they are moving, or else this would be a even greater concern than what it already is. But let's take a look over the past hour, just the movement of these storms. They interacted with the boundary, right? The outflow boundary, they've exploded. Now they're slowly drifting back towards the east-southeast, but notice they're kind of moving over the same areas from North Knox County down into Sevier County. So that's where we're probably going to see our flooding concern, Theo. And man, that's a lot of lightning as well. It's just jumping up in that almost 200 strike range, coming down a little bit to 140-ish. But yeah, I think more than a severe threat, Theo, it's going to be a flooding concern for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a pretty interesting question. Not to take our eyes off of the wind or flooding concern, but from Tanner, is there a reason some storms have more cloud-to-ground lightning than others? And I think that's a great question. Really, it depends on how tall the storm is. So it's a really good way of showing, the intensity of the storm. The taller the storm, the more rain particles you have, the more frozen particles you have, essentially, in terms of hail. And almost every storm that has lightning, especially intense cloud-to-ground lightning, is going to have hail contained in it. Usually it just melts before it falls to the ground. So the taller the storm, the more hail, the more updrafts you have, the more essentially material you have bouncing between each other, and it basically creates static electricity. So, dry air, you rub your hair against maybe a balloon or something, try that, and then you pull the balloon off of your hair and it sticks to that. That's static electricity. Essentially the same thing happens with the hail and the rain and all sorts of material going into the atmosphere, bumping into each other, and as it continues to bounce around, continues to essentially create more and more static electricity, and then that's why you have eventually more lightning, and specifically clouds-to-ground lightning. So it really depends on the height of the storm, how intense the storm is, and really we like to use lightning as a measure of how intense a storm is. And I mean, we have some ridiculous lightning over Knox County, Sevier County, Blount County. This one just to the south of the airport, Ken, is one of the strongest storms right now, the way it looks as well.
Yeah, I do want to point out areas that were under a severe thunderstorm watch have been dropped. Southeast Kentucky, northeast Tennessee. So again, the severe threat over here, still a flooding concern though, right? So areas in orange from Scott County, Morgan, Roane, Loudoun, Blount, Sevier County. technically still under a severe thunderstorm watch till 2 a.m. I got a feeling that they will probably drop it before 2 a.m., but it's really turning in more to a flooding threat. They're noisy. They may have 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts, yes. Bigger threat is going to be heavy rainfall, and we're seeing that across the area. Look at this. I mean, this has really jumped up just in the past 30 minutes. Let me show you some of the areas here. So in yellow, what we're talking about here, those are going to be over 2-inch amounts. So between Doyle Springs and DuPont, just west there of the main strip there, we're talking between Connor Heights. Let me zoom in. I'm going to zoom into a couple of these places, kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. So there's the flash flood warning Theo talked about there, Turkey Creek area near Target. A lot of standing water in some of the parking lots, some flooding concerns there. Look at the large area. That's 2.5 inches being estimated of rainfall here in Sevier County. So that's right where 11. Let's go a little further south, west of DuPont Springs. There's Dripping Springs Road, so we start to get in a little less populated area of the mountains there, not too far from where we may have had that tornado. They're still surveying that from a couple of weeks ago. Tuesdays, right? They always seem to be busy. Then there's west of the Parkway, there's McCookville, that's Caney Branch, or Caney Creek Road, and Rush Branch Road. So those are some 2-inch amounts. Got a feeling we'll quickly be seeing some flash flood warnings issued here. So anywhere close to Dollywood, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. Theo, I think it's just a matter of time before those get issued for those areas. Here we go. In the process of drawing up a larger flash flood warning, going to include some of Knox and Sevier counties, clips, small portions of Blount, should be out here in a minute or two. It's just what we're talking about here, right? They're looking at the same things we are, but they're noticing this uptick. So I would imagine it's probably going to go from Carter Community, Riverdale. It'll stretch down through about Gatlinburg, and maybe they said portions of Blount County. So if I had to draw it, I'm going to guess. I'm going to say it's going to be right through there. I mean, it would just make sense that that's kind of where the warning will be. We'll see when it pops up here in a minute, but 2 to 2.5 inch amounts of rain, and this has been in a short amount of time. I don't have this looped, but I would imagine that's majority of that, Theo's probably been what, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours?
If that. I don't even know if it's been an hour and a half. Let's take a look.
Looks like it's just about to come out.
Let's do an hour and a half. Let's do a 2-hour loop. So it was nothing.
There it is. So I was close. Yeah. It's the dark green. Let me take my scribble off of there.
It's a little larger.
Yeah, a little bit larger. They included, the Knox County area, but that's going to go until 1:30 now. So we've got this one, till midnight, and that one's till 1:30.
It's probably a little bit of preemptive as well.
Yeah, because more's coming.
Yeah, we continue to see that back building.
All right, what else do you have over there, Theo?
Flooding concerns just continue to ramp up. Really think the severe threat's pretty much over.
I agree. I imagine they will drop that watch pretty soon. Flooding concerns certainly going to be a problem, though, overnight into tomorrow.
It's really interesting that to the north and east of this outflow boundary, look at how these storms really died off. It's just kind of light to moderate, steady rainfall. And then here's the outflow pretty much right here over Knoxville, down into Pigeon Forge and Sevierville, up towards Fentress County. South and west of that, you still have quite a bit of storm fuel. So that doesn't necessarily mean severe threat, but it means that can tap into some very heavy rainfall rates. I mean, it's continuing to fill in. Look at this, up in Morgan County, places like Anderson County. I mean, it is blossoming very quickly. So very widespread, heavy drenching rainfall rates. Look at Knox County even. We're going to zoom into Knox County. I think that's really one of the biggest concerns is where we've just had this flash flood warning polygon drawn up for over 2 to 3 inch radar estimated amounts. Look at this almost circling around it. That's kind of that outflow wrapping around this storm, Ken, closer to the Farragut area now, Hardin Valley Academy there. So just over our studios, downtown Knoxville, up into the north and the east, I mean, it's almost stationary, maybe drifting back over to the east. Then we're kind of getting that line, compressing it to the south there. Very intense rainfall rates. I mean, we got some purple now showing up on reflectivity, which just indicates how heavy it could be, even maybe some pea-sized hail mixed into that. Again, hail, wind, not as big of a concern as just the flooding now. Where is that? Union Hill. This is just to the north and west side of Sevierville, kind of drifting towards the south and east. So Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, down into Gatlinburg. This is really the heaviest of the rainfall rates. And then
Theo,
also,
show me the Fentress County again.
let's go
Further north.
County.
So there's Morgan.
It's moving pretty quickly at least.
It is. So right there, headed towards Jamestown, Allert. I wanted to point that out because now come to me. We can change the source here over to camera 1. Look where the storm fuel is. Cumberland County through Morgan County. It's going to feed off of that. So we may have to watch those for at least the potential for some gusty winds here in the short term. That's some elevated medium getting into the higher range of fuel. Crossville hasn't had rain yet. This may be your opportunity with this batch that's coming down through Fentress County. Notice where all the fuel's used up. I'm going to show you where the watch is. It's gone, right? So the watch is gone there. Even though you're not under a watch, again, definition, in and around the watch has the potential for severe storms. So I'd still say low-end chance that Morgan and Cumberland County could get close to severe limits, but I still think we probably stay in that 40 to 50 mile per hour gust potential. But again, kind of points out where the fuel has been used up, north and east, watch has been dropped. Where we still have some fuel, Knoxville, southward, that's where we're seeing storms continue. Wow, look at Sevier County, Theo. They've jumped to 4,000 outages now. 1,000 in Jefferson, 1,500 Blunt, 2,000 Knox, 800 Granger, and then the 600s, Harlan, Knox, Kentucky, Whitley at 500. So these have really jumped up here in the past hour or two with the gusty winds. Let's take a look. Still seeing some gusty winds there at Anakeesta, not as strong as it was before. And then there's a live look. Looks like the camera has frozen there. See the flag not moving. So there it is. But look, a lot calmer, just heavy rainfall. And I think, again, as we said, that's going to be a big concern, is the potential for heavy rain. And we're still seeing that in and around Knoxville. We're kind of looking back towards the CAT station, the bus station. Kind of hard to tell. There's the convention center over here and Coliseum. That's over there. Lights turned out obviously at night. And then Island Home Airport kind of off in the distance. But still some heavy rainfall across the area there. Take another look at Greenback. Let's take a look at that camera real quick. A lot of lightning off in the distance, but not a lot of rain there at this point. Lightning flash there. So again, our product did very well, Theo, showing where the potential of flash flooding could be. We'll see if Cott County gets added. Oh, it's always bad, right there along Interstate 40. Man, hate seeing that. We'll keep an eye on that. Let me just take a look, see what kind of rainfall estimates we've had there in portions of Cott County. A little bit of yellow showing up there between Bell Hill and Grassy Fork. Those are going to be over 2-inch total. So I wouldn't be surprised, Theo, if this is our next opportunity for flash flooding. So kind of just north of the I-40 corridor there. We don't want any more rain in that area that was flooded out, where they're still trying to repair it at this point. So I know we're coming up here not too far away from the 11 o'clock newscast. So when that happens, we'll obviously turn off our stream here, but we'll do news coverage, and then we'll also do weather coverage as well. But Theo, I'm going to let you take control for a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and put together my show so I'll be ready for the 11 o'clock newscast coming up here in just a minute, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
Kind of give me an update, especially in those storms that are coming down through Fentress County.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping this up here over the next few minutes. Let's kind of, as we approach here, 10:37 right now, approach the 11 o'clock, we can really see this large well, let's get rid of this. Large kind of overview stretching along the Kentucky border. All that green to yellow is some light to moderate rainfall. We're seeing some very torrential downpours, Knoxville to Sevierville. Kind of want to show you this overall view because look at what's happening back closer to the Bowling Green area, right along the Tennessee-Kentucky border, Jamestown to Pine Knot. Still some very torrential downpours drifting off towards the south and east. So just because it may be tapering off for your area doesn't mean it's over. We'll continue to see at least some batches of rain as we go through really much of the night the way it looks. Again, severe threat really starting to dwindle. That's definitely some good news. Looks like the gustiest of the storms is going to be up in Fentress County right now. And then moving on down into Jamestown area, the Allard area, and then eventually down into Cumberland and Morgan County there, so sunbright community. But notice how quickly the rainfall is really starting to pick up there. Composite reflectivity, the brighter the colors, the heavier the downpours there. So you can really see the heaviest of the downpours is going to be in the Jamestown area, the Allard area. We'll watch, let me check the kind of the velocity here, the wind speeds. Good news is we're not seeing much, if any, shear. Again, tornado threat pretty much non-existent. Wind threat really starting to diminish. And when I say wind threat, severe wind threat. So anything over 58 mile per hour winds or greater, that's really come down. Sure, we could see some 30, 40, maybe even 50 mile per hour wind gusts. That's exactly why we have this little brown outline. Special weather statement still continues for a few more minutes, I believe 10:45 for Fentress County as that drops south. Also a pretty gusty storm here in Blount County, but really the trend is lower severe threat, ramping up with the flood threat as we go through tonight. I-40 northward, including Knoxville, under a level 2 flood threat, and then everybody is under a level 2 threat from the Weather Prediction Center through the day, through your Wednesday. All these green flashing boxes, which includes most of Knox County now, moving into Sevier County, that is going to be your flash flood warnings. Just a heads up, control room, Eric up there, we're pretty much ready to wind things down, get us ready for the 11 o'clock. So you just let me know when you want me to end this. But otherwise, again, light to moderate rainfall through here. If you're kind of north and east of this outflow boundary, which is basically Knoxville, north and eastward, light to moderate rainfall. But if you're south and west of that line, very, very torrential downpours still continuing really through the next several hours as we go through here. So let's pull up both the severe watch, just show you what's been canceled, who still technically is under a severe thunderstorm watch. Again, north and east of Knoxville, you're good. And even pretty much everybody, again, severe threats very, very minimal. I'd say some up to 50 mile per hour wind gusts would be your main concern with that. Looking at the current flash flooding threat, man, this has really gotten pretty serious. We're talking about high to very high. I don't know if I've seen this much red spreading across an area in my time here, from all the way along the Parkway, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, almost the entirety of Sevier County, moving up into, again, this is 411, moving up into Knox County, so kind of the eastern half of Knox County, north and east of downtown Knoxville, Central High School, 640 included in that, the 640 I-40 split. So some pretty serious flooding concern, at least the flooding potential. Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, here's the Parkway, 411, and then going into the Smokies there, Mount LeConte. So again, this is kind of the central, kind of busiest area of Sevier County, and then also going into Townsend, just on the north side of Townsend there, and then also this highlighted one. This was a very heavy downpour as well, so not surprised that we're seeing that kind of high to very high flooding concerns on our flash flood threat. Maryville, so just to the south and east of the airport here. Happy Valley here, so this is just to the north and east of the Happy Valley area, 6 Mile community just to the east of there as well. So really that's going to be our first and foremost primary concern as we go through the rest of the evening and overnight hours. Even in Secaucus County, there's still an elevated flash flood threat as well. Here's what we're going to do. Just kind of go over the next few hours. We'll show what our latest model's kind of showing here. See if it's done a decent job at even initializing is what we call it, or essentially thinking of what's going on currently. So doing a pretty decent job actually of kind of just overall, well, let's reset that, kind of overall storm track here. And then as we go through the night, you can see the continued rounds pushing through midnight. After we get through about 1 or 2 o'clock south of I-40, and then the concern that we've been talking about is this is really just round number 1. We could be talking about as early as 7, 8 o'clock or so, just after sunrise. 8 o'clock for your Wednesday, another line of shower and storm activity blasting in from the south, or from the north to the south, and then maybe even an additional scattered shower and storm opportunity. Probably not as strong, probably not as widespread flooding concerns, but even into the afternoon and evening hours. So again, that's kind of right now for the next 3 or 4 hours, moving off towards the south. So your break might be between about 2 and sunrise, and then around 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, some very torrential downpours. Not great for the morning commute, especially. And then as we get closer to noon, it looks like we could see a little bit of a break as well. So when you put all that together, flooding threat is definitely going to be quite elevated as we go through the next really 36 plus hours. Flash flood threat through tomorrow, still that level 2 medium threat as we go through the day tomorrow. And then here's what we'll do. We'll end on the 7-day, let you guys in with that. And then we will be back on at 11 o'clock here. So just in 15 minutes, if there's any new flash flood warnings, of course, we'll have that at the crawl here at the bottom of your screen on regular programming as well. We'll update you as needed through Facebook and YouTube. But tomorrow, pretty good bet that a lot of us are going to see on and off rain showers and storms. Flooding is going to be the main concern there. Thursday, Friday, lower coverage, not necessarily zero, but lower coverage. And then through the weekend, it looks like we might finally get a drier weekend, but that also means our temperature and heat going up. Heat index values 105 to even 110 possibly. If that's the case, wouldn't be surprised at all to see a heat advisory issued there. And then going into next Monday and Tuesday, we may be dealing with additional isolated spotty showers and storms as well. So I think we're ready to shut things down, and here in about 14, 15 minutes,